Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the love drama trial that the world has we have waited for. This is a trial we deserve. Look, after all the crap we've been through, after all the struggles, we're the survivors of 2020. We earned something, and to me, what we earned. We were watching Fani Willis sweat out her romantic entanglements as the homewrecker, not the homewrecker, because Nathan Wade's relationship was really over from 2015. It just didn't technically end until well after he met Fani Willis. Anyhow, so if you came late, if you missed yesterday, little synopsis. This is a trial which is designed to elicit and explore whether or not Fani Willis's prosecution of Donald Trump et al. Was motivated by her own personal bias. That personal bias being that she's looking to help herself or her boyfriend by creating a way for them to financially gain. So in order to establish this, they need to establish that there was, in fact, a romantic relationship which predates the hiring of Nathan Wade. Some would argue, I'm sure that the movements / defendants would argue that part of that if they can establish that there was a romantic relationship, in fact, there's been an admission of a romantic relationship that precedes the second contract, that would be enough. I don't think that's going to be enough for this judge. I don't think this judge is going to say, well, at the time of the second one, there wasn't even an indictment yet, and you admit that there was a relationship. Now, Nathan Wade admitted that he brought in hundreds of $300,000 worth of invoicing Fulton County in just 1 year alone, and we see totals which exceed $700,000. But he claims they had to split that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. However, if you look at the numbers there. Doesn't seem as if he actually had to share it 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. It seems as if perhaps Terence Bradley was not in the firm anymore. And that's one of the things I think we should anticipate. We'll be asked of Terence Bradley, did you get 1/3 of those receipts? Because I don't think he did. It didn't seem that way. It seems as if most of the billable hours that Nathan Wade posted for his involvement as special prosecutor in the case against Donald Trump, Michael Roman, etc., et al., that those revenues that he earned seem to come to his firm of Nathan Wade law firm PC, and not to the triumvirate of Wade, Bradley, Campbell. So I think that we should anticipate that Bradley is going to be called to the stand today. We should anticipate you're going to be hearing a lot of objections with respect to the admissibility of testimony that they're going to try and elicit from him. We saw yesterday that Bradley's attorney, I don't know Bradley's attorney's name. A lot of people commented that he looks like Chakotay from Star Trek Voyager, which I couldn't argue with. He does bear a bit of a resemblance to Chakotay. So now you'll recognize him as, oh, that's Bradley's attorney. As soon as you see him, if you know who Chakotay is. But we should anticipate that he's going to be coming out there and objecting a lot. Although some of their objections seem to make them believe that the attorney-client privilege that Bradley owes Nathan Wade, because Bradley has served as Nathan Wade's divorce attorney, that they read that far more broadly than, I don't know, any other attorney has ever read the privilege. They think it applies to observations. They seem to apply to any conversation between Bradley and Wade between 2018 and, I don't know, last month. It seems to be an overly broad interpretation. In the middle of the show yesterday, around the 3.5 hour mark, I started breaking down how the attorney-client privilege works, when it attaches, when it gets broken, when it gets severed, and there's no privilege at all. There's another person in the room, Fani Willis, in the room. There's no privilege to those communications. It's got to be communications that can be deemed, and we'll read this broadly, but it has to be, can be deemed as toward enabling better representation by the attorney. But just regular conversations about how to structure their business or severing of their business, which seemingly have no relationship to the divorce proceeding, it's unimaginable that those would qualify as protected. Bradley seems to be either sometimes an attorney in this position might try and exaggerate the extent to which the privilege extends so that they can have a veneer of protection. They claim that they're trying to protect their client, but it's actually trying to protect themselves. Well, anyhow, so we're going to see how the judge handles that. I don't think the judge is going to recognize the privilege as broadly as Terence Bradley is hoping to have it attached. But the morning is supposed to start with Fani Willis on the stand. That's what we're supposed to see. I'm waiting for the trial to start. I'm waiting for the court to start. I'm actually watching. I have a channel open here in the background, which I'm waiting for it to open right now on Fox 5 Atlanta. So let's make sure I'm on that one. Fox 5 Atlanta live today, which is where I had this yesterday. Live. That's not it. All right. I got live now from Fox, which has 1,800 people watching live. And here we go. There we go. Right as I call it, they actually come out and start doing their thing. Attorneys filing in. I don't like these 9 a.m. starts. Not going to kid you. I don't like them. I don't like the 9 a.m. start. I don't like it. Not cool. Sherry Lawlessness. Welcome back. How are you, my friend? I should check out what's happening over on Rumble. Rumble is working well. Okay, that's good. While you're here, if you could please hit the like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. I would appreciate it. Oh, and right out the gate, you awesome Bella. Gifting 10 new memberships. 10 new memberships. Should I check out who became a member? Should we check it out? Let me make sure that we got volume up. Let's check it out.
They would resume, and so I will make a finding that he's decided not to attend today's round 2. All right, anything we need to take up before resuming? We have someone from the gallery.
Sorry, Robin Martin. I want to bring up John Morrison's office. He's sick today.
Okay, and Mr. Floyd has decided what exactly? Did he?
He's waiting.
I can't hear her either.
Ms. Cross.
It sounds like it's a deliberate choice for Mr. Morrison not to be present this morning, and the defendant was certainly here yesterday if he joins later. Otherwise, I think we can call that a voluntary waiver.
Okay, I agree, and I haven't heard anything else from Mr. Morrison or any other counsel. Is there anything we need to take up before resuming testimony here? Let me start with the state.
Some of these attorneys may not be getting paid to sit there all day.
Had asked that Ms. Yearty be her subpoena be held in case we needed to recall. I let her attorney know last night after speaking to him. We don't intend to recall her, and as far as the state's concerned, I know she'd already been released from the subpoena from the other side, so there was no reason for her to be taken from the state.
I didn't expect them to recall
Ms.
her.
Merchant, can we excuse Ms. Yearty?
Yeah.
I talked to her attorney last night, and I said, "Hey, we had a different conversation, so I think she's still on standby."
Oh, really? She might recall her.
So your position has changed since yesterday?
In a normal trial, you cannot recall the
Based on
witness.
state's representation,
But this
they
is
may
an
have a rebuttal.
evidentiary hearing, and the rules are a little
Just that, so
different.
I don't know what that is. So in rebuttal, if they present something in rebuttal, then I need to call her to.
The other side could call them, but you can't recall someone you
We'll address
called
it as it
already
comes up.
normally.
What else? Anything else?
Are my
Ms. Cross?
volume levels good compared to the
Not
court?
from the state, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Merchant.
I know that we're still in the middle of Ms. Willis, but.
You guys can confirm that my
Some
volume
of the
levels
things
are
that were
good.
said yesterday in court,
I'd appreciate that.
Bradley, privilege, things like that. Do you want to do that now, or would you rather do that before Mr. Bradley?
When you say address them, what do you mean?
Well, there's a couple
Thank you,
different
Brad.
issues, but we've got the privilege issue is one of them. But I also, what I did was I drafted all my questions, and I thought I could give those to the court, opposing counsel, other than review them. So we didn't have to worry about the privilege stuff. There were some allegations made. I had a transcript made of the proceeding yesterday. Some specific allegations that I think I should have an opportunity to review. Specifically that I had egregiously misrepresented, that things that I had said were patently false, and that all of that information came from Mr. Abadi speaking of Mr. Chopra. I spoke with Mr. Chopra. We talked to him in the car on the way here on speakerphone, Mr. Merchant and I. And he said that he didn't tell Mr. Abadi any of that information, doesn't know where Mr. Abadi got it from. Mr. Abadi says that he did. And so,
If there's any clearing.
All right, as they work out some court procedurals,
What the heck?
we are going to take
What's
a 2-minute
happening?
break before DA Fani Willis gets back on the stand.
my
We will
gosh,
bring you
no.
at the action coming up next on Live Now from Fox.
Oh my gosh, what's that? What? No, I want the arguments. Oh my gosh, you suck. Let me find another. While they're going to break, I like the legal arguments. I don't want you to go to a stupid break.
I gave him much less cash that time, probably $400 or $500.
The
This
DA
is-
also revealed how the
God.
relationship ended.
I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why
Lord, you suck. Gosh, imagine living with that. I can't imagine. Can't imagine what that's like. They're still on a commercial break, so you're not missing anything from Fox 5. I am trying to find a better feed. Let me try here. I have an idea.
Do that, and
There we go.
before we call him, we can get into that as well.
okay, great, thank you. And I have a copy for the court. I have one copy for either the state or Mr. Evans. I know Mr. Abadi was objecting to privilege yesterday, but I think actually Mr. Evans that needs to do that.
Was Mr. Evans is here? Okay. All right. Anything else from any counsel?
Vote the rule, make sure it's still invoked.
The rule is still in place. All right. Not seeing anything else. If we could bring back in Ms. Willis.
Actually, Your Honor, the state has no further questions for Ms. Willis, so
All right.
no need to recall.
Okay, Ms. Merchant.
That's what they do.
Next witness.
I think we're about to hit the privilege issue.
We are about to hit the privilege.
There we are. Okay. Then do you need counsel need a moment to take a look at her questions?
So I've got a copy. Oh, I guess Mr. Evans.
And then do we have Mr. Bradley somewhere in the whereabouts nearby?
Mr. Chopra.
I informed Mr. Chopra that he's still under subpoena, so let's.
Well, him and his client.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm also with Mr. Bradley, and he's actually not here today. He's
We need you to identify yourself for the record, sir.
at ward. He's not here at this moment. He has a doctor's appointment that he's currently in as we speak. And his representation is on the way here as well. I'd love to be able to get one of the.
Do you have a copy, Ashley? Ms. Merchant?
I just gave it to Mr. Evans.
No, is there one?
Do you have a time estimate of when he's supposed to be here?
I have one copy for y'all. Of the questions?
Not for.
Where's the doctor in relation to here?
Yes, at the very earliest, he would be free about 10 o'clock, 10 to 10:30.
All right, he's currently driving here as we speak.
Just to clarify,
actual, doctor's office as we speak.
the state said they're not going to cross-examine Fani now.
Okay.
They're just going to call her later.
And
I think the council was informed of that last night.
Interesting
that
strategy.
he would not be here until at the earliest 10 to 10:30.
all right,
I wasn't told 10 or 10:30, but
sure. Ms. Merchant, other than Mr. Bradley, did you have any other witnesses?
not that I can call before Mr. Bradley.
Need
But I
Bradley
do think we
first.
should take up some of the privilege.
Sure. No, I think we can use this time to do that. So why don't y'all take a moment to look at the questions and then let me know when you're ready to proceed.
I can't make it larger.
That
This
part
is
of it
full
has-
screen.
Doesn't have to do with the question. I understood yesterday. I know these gentlemen are looking at the same time, so we want me to wait until they've had a chance to.
Well, I think you're about to maybe make a legal qualification here. So why don't we hear what you got?
Yesterday, it sounded as if the witness was going to decline to answer any questions at all in relation to communications or observations or anything, be it independent source or otherwise, that took place during the time of the alleged attorney-client privilege or relationship.
I'm going to try AP here.
In between the two, one is not covered by the evidentiary privilege, and pulling the case of Tenet Healthcare Corp. 273 Georgia 206. Supreme Court doesn't make that distinction. So to that end, Mr. Evans, as we work through these issues, I would say that when Mr. Bradley takes the stand, I would be directing him to respond and be responsive to any questioning
That's what I thought.
that may be covered by Rule 1.6. That would be the order of this court, but that still reserves the issue of attorney-client privilege. So as you're reviewing those questions, we'll keep that in mind, and I'll be interested to hear your response. Anything else you think we should clarify before we take a break to look at the questions? Do you have a copy for me?
Yes, I do. A copy of the questions, Judge, and I also have copies of the exhibit that I would be filing.
It's a bit of a struggle trying to figure out between video and audio. Like when you have superior audio with terrible video and you're streaming, which way to go. It's a very tough call. And it's hard to sync them. I've tried syncing them, but invariably the video will, if you use two different feeds, the video will not, it's almost impossible to find a perfect sync between video and audio. This is AP's feed, which so far seems superior. It's like the superior choice, video and audio wise.
All right. And counsel for Mr. Bradley, I'm sorry, can I get your name one more time? I didn't write it down. Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Ward, if we could get some regular updates of where he is and how he is progressing towards the courtroom. And then when everyone has had a chance to read these questions in the interim, let me know and we can take this up. Mr. McDougall.
So this audio has that stupid person in the background moving things around.
Okay. Is someone joining us by, thank you. Is someone joining us by Zoom that wants to appear for the record?
Yes, Your Honor. Chris Kucherov for Mr. Floyd.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kucherov. And I think we had a legal assistant here announcing on Mr. Floyd's behalf, but I think it would be better to have counsel of record. Any announcement in terms of Mr. Floyd's presence this afternoon, or excuse me, today?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I don't know. Did you ask a question?
Yes, sir. So Mr. Floyd joined us yesterday, but I do not see him here today. Do you have an announcement about his presence for today's hearing?
No, he will not be present, Your Honor.
All right.
Who would waive his presence?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kucherov. All right. We'll be in recess until I hear from the parties.
Thank you.
So we're in recess. All right. I kind of anticipated that the morning was going to start off with them doing some housekeeping. So it's an interesting strategical thing that we saw the state do over here, and it's not an uncommon strategy. what they figured to do with Fani Willis is they know that she's obviously she is the state, so they can call her at any time. They don't need to cross her right now, and they probably realize that if we don't cross her, what happens if we cross her? If we cross her, we ask her questions, and we'll get her to make her statements out there and say whatever she wants, and we can lead her. But we don't need to lead her because she's a sufficiently pliable witness. She's sufficiently versed in understanding the law that even if we don't lead her and we give her regular open questions on direct, she'll be fine. And then they'll have a chance to redirect. And that's likely what defense counsel, Ashley Merchant, and all the other defense counsels were anticipating how they were going to start their morning. Well, if we say we're going to avoid crossing her, in that case, that puts Ashley Merchant's feet to the fire, that she's now obliged to jump in with her next witness. And she's probably not ready for that, or there's a good chance she's not ready for that because she's expecting she's going to start with Fani Willis. So you're sort of trying to, I feel like they're trying to throw her off her game, especially when you're talking about 9 o'clock in the morning. We don't know which witnesses are going to be there, which witnesses are not going to be there yet, because everyone's expecting that. And you sort of make her more discombobulated in the way that she's handling the evidentiary hearing, which can only be a good thing for her opponents. So I think that that's likely the strategy. They felt like we don't lose anything by pushing back Fani and our opportunity to question Fani on the stand, and we potentially gain by keeping them out. I'm going to take a quick vote. A lot of you are saying that the audio feed is getting the better audio feed is the preferable method. I'm going to look at switching over to Zoom. Give me a moment here. Give me a moment. Because I actually did sign up with the Georgia court. I can probably get me the Zoom feed myself. Let's get this off. The Zoom feed is going to be working faster than the Zoom feed has no delay at all, but that is where you have the worst video. So there's no way to sync those two up. Bella, you too good to me. God bless you. 10 new members of the following. Check it out. NTD has a good feed. That's what I'm hearing now. Check out NTD. Everyone's keep telling me different feeds I should check out. Let me see NTD's feed. I don't know what NTD is. This is the Guardian. I don't know how good their feed is. I feel like I'm just guessing. Especially since it's quiet now. We'll try this feed. I have a feeling that there's really only a choice of two feeds. That's what I feel like. I feel like there's a choice of two feeds. It's either Zoom or the same feed that we're all watching. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, it's just being refiltered through these different agencies. And the Zoom one is where you have better, crisper audio. But it's like you're so far back, you can't actually see anything. And in the other one, you have much better video, but this constant glitching in the background and this weird kind of audio. So I'm feeling they're both exactly the same. I'm not down with the commercials. I don't like commercials, especially if they're like, oh, we don't need to hear legal arguments. I'm like, if I'm not getting legal arguments, what am I watching for? I need my legal arguments. Legal arguments are the best. Yeah, there's great popcorn drama. Let me see if I can dig up the Zoom feed directly myself.
Thank you.
This is a Zoom feed. This is if you go straight to the site. That's what you got. That's the Zoom feed. This is where you're going to have the clearest audio. It's also the fastest one. Everything else is on delay. This is not on delay. This is not being recorded. I think this is probably optimal. Let's mute that. All right. So we're waiting for them to come back to court. We don't really know if this can be 5 minutes or longer. Yeah. Yeah, this is crap. This is crap. I've seen John Dalton come in here before, and apparently he's always stranded with his daughter without gas. So if you see this guy in the chat, just know he's a scam artist. Okay. Last time I saw him, I said, I don't know if he's speaking the truth. He could be telling the truth. He could be a scammer. I'm going to go on a limb here and tell you that this guy, John Dalton, is full of crap. That's my personal opinion, that he's a liar and he's a scam artist. I don't know how it is that you're with your daughter all the time and you're always running out of gas and you're always contacting the family and the police and walking to gas station when no one's able to help, but someone's got to help you get gas, and somehow sending you money is going to help you get the gas into your car. I don't understand any of this. None of this makes any sense to me. So yeah, he's a scam artist. There you go. If you want to be gifted a membership, that's a bit of a random luck thing. That's a bit of a random, like, who gets who YouTube just gives it to. But you do need to check off a box that you're willing to accept gifted memberships. That's the only way. If you don't check off the box, I don't think you become eligible. I don't remember where it is that you have to do that. I think it might be in your regular YouTube settings. I don't think it's like on per channel. I don't think it's per channel. That's my recollection on that, but I'm not sure. Not sure. I would tell you all to please make sure you check your subscriptions. You are more likely to be. You should actually. It's one of the reasons you should subscribe is because it's fun to see whether or not YouTube lets you remain subscribed to me. Some people pay for memberships and still get unsubscribed. You're like, how's that even possible? I'm a paying member and I'm not subscribed to this guy. Yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens. So I urge you to make sure you check your membership status, because and the real way to make sure that you're going to find me is if you sign up at goodlogic.locals.com. That's goodlogic.locals.com. You can see a little white strip there, because that's where I send notifications about everything that I'm doing. That's how you'll find me. goodlogic.locals.com. So, but I certainly appreciate all the support that I get from my very, very generous followers or members of the following. Not that they're my people. Oh, you can help John with gas? Not for his car. I see what you're doing. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Yeah, it's very, very aggravating. It's unbelievable. The dude comes in here and just like, trying to scam people who are following me. Like, what the hell? What the hell's wrong with you? What the hell is something wrong? Dude, something really sick, seriously sick with you. Ah, thank you so much, Katie. I'm not the leader of the cult. And it's not a cult. It's not at all a cult type of cult. I don't know why it is that people think that this is a cult type of cult, or that I'm a leader, which I'm definitely not the leader of the following. A lot of you who are new to the channel might not realize what they're talking about. When someone becomes a member of this channel, they become a follower. They can become a disciple, a leader, a prophet, a high priest. There are different benefits, different levels, status, membership. And a lot of people mistakenly think that implies that this is a cult, or that when you join my channel, you're joining some sort of cult. And I'm here to reassure you that nothing could be further from the truth. You are not at all part of a cult if you join my channel, because this is not at all, the following is not at all a cult type of cult. So, and you know it's not a cult type of cult because there's no spaceships, no Kool-Aid, no tracksuits that are mandatory, no goat sacrifices, no squirrel mutilations, no throwing blood on the walls, no finger painting with blood. That's something that, because if you were in a cult, obviously part of the exercise of the day is your blood finger painting. We don't have any of that here. None of that. Mild farm work, no stabbing yourself in the leg or in the arm. So it's not at all a cult. The following is simply about, it's a group of people who are interested in greater community, greater unity, and personal growth. And one final thing is, I'm not the leader of the following. I'm a follower just like you. A lot of people mistakenly think, oh, Joe's the one talking to us on this channel. He's obviously, no. I am not the leader of the following. I am just a follower, just like you. So, but yeah, thank you for the gas money, because I definitely need gas. Definitely need more gas. So, what's in your mind, Bella? For the leaders. I think I'm not sure. I think I owe you another one of these. That was Bella like sounding off the war horn. Yes, but I do urge you all to follow me on goodlogic.locals.com. I sort of feel like the judge walked out and didn't tell us when he's coming back. I sort of feel like that. There goes Chicote, in case you saw, he just walked by there, the attorney for Terence Bradley. So if you want to know who Terence Bradley is a guy who knows Nathan Wade for 25 since the 90s. And he was the first person to be called to the stand yesterday. The reason he's significant is because he's a partner of Nathan Wade. At a certain point, he becomes Nathan Wade's attorney. They're friends that go back a long way. They also had a falling out. What's really interesting is the two friends we know, Nathan Wade's friend that we know from the 90s and Fani Willis's friend that we know from the 90s, each had a falling out with our star-crossed lovers, Nathan Wade and Fani Willis. In fact, Nathan Wade and Fani Willis seems to have a little bit of a falling out as far as their relationship ended. However, that now they became closer friends than ever because they've been brought together like Romeo and Juliet, as the world is harassing them, crucifying them, putting them up on the cross. Poor Nathan Wade, poor Fani. Please send money. The cult needs shovels. Nope. Oh, nope. Cult needs new shovels. Police not helping. Unbelievable. Joe, serious questions. Are squirrels kosher? No, they're not. They're not kosher. No. In order for an animal to be kosher, it has to have split hooves and chew its cud. That's at least your land animals. That doesn't include birds, which basically birds that are kosher birds kosher birds are a much more complicated subject. When it comes to water creatures, they have to have fins and scales. So all the best tasting stuff from the ocean, from what I've been told but never tasted, lobster, shrimp, crab, oysters, none of that's kosher. All your crustaceans, not kosher. So there you go. And rodents, no rodents are kosher. So if they ever actually make us eat the bugs, I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know because none of that's kosher either. None of them bugs are kosher. I don't know what we're gonna do. I'm gonna become vegan. My God. Ugh. Good. No. You lot chicken. It's ex-vet. Joe tried to explain he's not the leader of our tunnel digging cult. Goes his way explaining how he wasn't committing fraud while explaining how he handled money in perfect step with the money laundering ops. No, you see, I don't really even appreciate this. I don't appreciate this entire comparison here. I don't think that's an apt comparison at all. No, Nathan Wade seemed very non-credible, and anyone can tell that I'm definitely telling the truth when I say I'm not the leader of the following, which is not a cult. I feel as if I'm, the whole world is assailing me. I should get a picture of like me and Fani and Nathan, because I feel as if the entire world is sort of crashing down against me with all these claims. Oh, you're a cult leader. It even said it in your high school yearbook, most likely to start a cult. And which is it's all just lies. Everyone's telling lies about me. It's very offensive. I can relate to Fani Willis and her persecution far better than I ever thought possible. Let me tell you something, Lord. The struggle is real. The struggle is difficult. It's hard, and I say to myself, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm black. Maybe that's why you're all coming after me. Maybe it's because I'm black. It's possible. It's possible. Everyone's trying to come after me because they say, oh, there's another black guy I can kick down. I don't know. Dr. Hirehead, here's some fungible cash. Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind. We all need fungible cash. Let me tell you something. My daddy always told me, you never know, one day a woman might leave you high and dry. So you need to have some cash that's put aside. So you need to have piles of cash, for emergencies and things like that. And even if you can't buy food, if you're living in a cardboard box on the street, make sure that one corner of that cardboard box there are piles of cash that are hidden away there in case you have to pay someone back for a date or for a trip on a cruise or something like that. So these are all life lessons I learned from my dad. So that's why I have these piles of cash and unmarked bills that I keep there, which is totally, I think everyone lives their life by that code. That's what everyone does. They live their life by that code, that you always need to have piles of unmarked bills, preferably hundreds, in the corner of your cardboard box when you're living on the street. So I was able to very much relate to what Fani Willis was telling me yesterday. Very, very much relate to that. The most Jewish thing ever told me. Which part? Which part? I don't know which part you're talking about here. Joe, I've seen women like Fani before. They bully and belittle other women, like she did yesterday. Then they play men by acting meek and afraid. She is a pure manipulator. I agree with you. She's completely a manipulator. We saw that she basically bullies effeminate men. And she smells weakness, she will bully. And if not, she gets this pleading eyes look on her. I'm just trying to be truthful with you. I'm just trying to give you the truth the best I can. Yeah, it's a good call by you. Good call, PD. It's true. So, I just realized now your name is Toxic Bacon. I don't know what Toxic Bacon. Toxic Bacon asking me Joe serious question, are squirrels kosher? That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. So, we're here watching this live. Nothing's happening. And he left us here. He left us. He just totally left us. He's coming back.
So I know which computer's blocked.
And he left us here in the dark. But what we do know is that Fani Willis is not going to be the first one to come out here. It's probably going to be Terence Bradley. It seems as if the judge is not too impressed. And what they're doing right now, I mean, I was saying he left us, but in case you missed and you came in late, what they're doing right now is they have issues with respect to questions that are going to be asked Terence Bradley. And rather than ask them on the record, so these questions have been pre-written by Ashley Merchant, which I don't like writing out my questions. I'll have like a list of different topics and areas that I want to explore, and I'll just sort of work my way through there. It's very rare for me to write out all of my questions. I can't work by a script like that personally. But so I don't write out my questions, but I'm much more likely to just sort of have an outline. And then I know, especially frequently, unless it's someone who I'm anticipating some sort of difficulty, then I might have a series of questions that I've just sort of highlighted there. But I find that when I'm there questioning a witness, I don't have the patience to look down at the paper. So I'll end up going like 3 questions, and then I'll be like, if I look down at the paper, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm at anymore, which is why I gave up writing out questions. And I just sort of work by my brain. That's how everyone has different methodologies. That's what I found works best for me. Afix, Fani's dress was on backwards all day. I say, look up the articles. There are clear pictures of it while on the stand. I actually tweeted that out yesterday. Only because once I saw evidence of it, just to show you, and the volume's on now, by the way. No, volume's not. This is what's going on there. I will show you what they're talking about because this is pretty funny. And this is the live feed. This is ahead of any other feed. So when they come out, this is the first place I will know about it. So I did think that was kind of funny. What happened with that yesterday? It was one of the last things I tweeted out yesterday. Yeah, it was the last thing I tweeted out before I went to bed. Look at this. This is actually her dress. She was wearing, this is the back of the dress. This is the front. She was wearing her dress because yesterday it was zipped up the front, the dress she was wearing. Adriana Papel. I think that's hilarious, personally. I don't understand people. How do you not know? How do you not know when you buy it? How is that possible? I have a friend who said that his worst memory from his childhood was his backward pants day. And he basically said that one day he was in school, like 4th grade, and he was sitting in class when all of a sudden he looked down and he realized that he had his pants on backwards. And he was horrified that people might realize that he had his pants on backwards. And he's sitting there looking down and he's like, how did I even get these on? Like, how? And he's like, then I realized, like, he's like, I was thinking, I had to get to the bathroom and not have anyone see, so I could take off my pants and then put my pants back on. He's like, but for the rest of my life, I've never forgotten that day. I always think of it as backward pants day. And and he's like, and then the question is like, what was, how did I get it on? How did I get my pants on backwards? How does anyone get their pants on backwards? That is harder to do than getting a dress on backwards. Because, I mean, I guess she knew. She just doesn't, well, she's so ignorant that she thinks that this is what it's supposed to look like. But yeah. You can all speculate about how pants would get on backwards. That's not an easy thing to do. You don't take our wives in this cult. It's not a cult. There's no mention about wives in any of the other bylaws. But I'm not taking anyone's wife. That I can assure you. I can't say about as far as the rules of the cult here. That's not at all a cult type of cult. Fanny ran for cover, leaving her daddy to the wolves. Apparently, her father is a part of the Black Panthers, or was a part of the Black Panthers. Someone else was sharing a whole thing with me about how he was shacking up with someone who was wanted by the FBI, like currently shacking up with someone who's wanted by the FBI. So I've been hearing some weird things about her dad. Bob that got me mad said, "Hey Joe, long time since I last caught a show live. I have a lot of crazy things on the 2024 bingo card. Didn't expect to lose my dad." Oh my gosh. 2 days before my birthday last week. He was a good dad. Going to 65. You didn't ask for it. I want to start by saying my condolences. Terribly sorry. And raise a shot to your dad. I know you weren't buying a shot from me. I know you weren't paying for one. I know it's 5 o'clock in the somewhere in the world. I don't think I've had a shot in this show I don't know, outside of the Father of the Bride stream in like 6 months. I haven't been drinking much on this show, but I will, to you, Bob that got me mad, who's been a long time watcher of this show, I will raise a shot to your dad, who you describe as a good dad. Going to 65 is very young. It is very young. And I will tell you that, just share a thought with you about your dad. Obviously, I don't know him or anything about him, but when a son is actually referring to their own father as being a good dad, I know that's all too rare. Unfortunately, it should be far more common than it is, but in today's day and age, it's too rare. And perhaps there's a reflection that in today's day and age, for various reasons, environment, society, perhaps it's harder to be a good dad. And I will tell you that each of us have an objective. And this is something I haven't mentioned on my channel in a while, but each of us have an objective, and our objective is our legacy. Legacy can mean different things. Legacy can refer to money you leave behind. Legacy can refer to the reputation you leave behind. Or it could be your children. By and by, that's pretty much. Legacy is a reference to the imprint that we make on this world that extends beyond our number of days on this planet. And ultimately, each of us, if we're not driven into just finding ways of self-pleasuring, the higher call of man, people who are genuinely happy rather than just looking for their own temporary self-gratification, the happiest of people invest in their legacy in one form or another, whether it's children, or their money, or their reputation, and are desperate to make a positive impact. And what I'll tell you is I can't speak on anything. I don't know anything about your dad, other than the fact that he has a son who is obviously feeling the pain of his loss and referring to him as being a good dad. And that is, you consider the objective of all humans is leave a legacy. And the most noble of those legacies that I referenced, far beyond money, far beyond our own personal reputation, is to leave behind kids who are good kids. Good kids are going to recognize a good dad. So I raise a shot to your dad and to you. May he rest in peace. And may his legacy be that he leaves behind children, grandchildren, and offspring who are as positive an impact in the world as he was. So still nothing happening here, in case you're wondering. This is live Zoom of Scott McAfee's courtroom. But do you all consider it's hard for Black women to wear that dress? See, that's part people don't realize. You don't realize the struggle that we have. You don't realize the struggle that we have. A lot of people tell me that they can't tell that I'm Black. That doesn't mean I don't suffer the same as all other members of the Black community. So, Joe, it's easy. She was having a quickie with one of her not boyfriend while watching. Oh, you're talking about how did she get the dress on backwards? With her not while watching Wade get emasculated on the stand, had to rush to put her clothes back on to get to this. She came out so hot. Oh my gosh. It was like, let's get ready to rumble. That was so great. I'm never going to forget that. Her dad being a Black Panther might give more credence to her stashing money. I can see them not trusting banks. That's an interesting point. I know she paints her dad as like, oh, my dad, he's such a good man. He's such a great man. It's like, yeah, your dad's like blowing up like just people he doesn't like. So I don't know that he's like such a great man. So but I thought that was funny. Where was I? Bob, as a father myself, the greatest honor I can imagine being put on me when I'm gone is my children calling me a good father. You've done it better than anyone else could have done with just that. See, that's why I picked up mine also. I picked up exactly the same thing. It's true. It's true. Last attorney, Chris Kacharoff, was my attorney in 2003. Really? That's kind of cool. Hey, Bindella. Let me check out, make sure that I'm not missing anything over here. Rumble. If you guys over in Rumble, is 842 you watching in Rumble. Midnight Green is now a monthly supporter on Rumble. That's a part of the following. My followers on Rumble, 800 and over 800 you watching there, and I just hit 100 likes. So I think we can do better than that. I just feel like we can. I feel like it's possible. I feel like that's possible. Who's Chris Kacharoff representing? I'm really not sure. So if you're wondering what's happening right now, so they're reviewing the questions, because as I was trying to walk you through and explain to you the issues that they're dealing with here, Terence Bradley, friend of Nathan Wade, was part of the firm Wade, Bradley, Campbell, which they acronymed WBC. And I can't deny the fact that having a law firm referred to as the WBC law firm is actually, it's a pretty good name. It's a pretty cool name. You might not realize this. It's illegal to call your law firm something like the Kick-Ass Firm. Like, you're not allowed to. You actually have to use names. Like, at least in most jurisdictions. At least I can only attest to New York, but you're not able to call you. In fact, there's stories of, like, people changing their last names to, like, the Lincoln Jefferson. Like, you can't call it, the Abraham Lincoln Law Firm, even though he was a noted attorney, or the Thomas Jefferson Law Firm, or Jefferson Adams. You can't just do that, and it's considered a breach of ethical guidelines to do that. And there are stories of attorneys who actually legally changed their names so that they would be allowed to refer to it as, like, the Jefferson Adams thing. To me, I think that's cuck. That's being a cuck right there. If you have to rely on, like, ooh, I'm going to trick people into making them think about Jefferson and Adams, that's the way I'm going to establish myself, you got deeper issues. You got problems. You're probably not a great attorney. You're definitely not Jefferson or Adams. I can assure you, you're not Adams. Sorry, you're just not. You're not. I don't know if some of you missed it yesterday when Fani took the stand yesterday. When Fani jumped on the stand. So they always say, state your name for the record. And it doesn't matter if it's the Pope. When you get on the stand there, you just say, Benedict. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. If Kamala Harris takes the stand tomorrow and they say, they swear her in, they say, please state your name for the record and state and spell your name. And it doesn't matter who it is. She would say Kamala Harris and then spell out her name. Ask yourself this. Why would they ask her to state her name for the record? State and spell your name for the record. Do you ever think about that? Especially if it's like, I think that there's an intent there. There's an intent there to sort of show that every witness is looked at the same. By having each person sworn in and then state and spell their name for the record, we're putting you in the box here. And every voice that's coming from that voice is equal. Fani Willis takes the stand and say, please state and spell your name for the record. She's like, my name, and she gets sworn in. She says, District Attorney Fani Willis. When Trump got sworn in, he did not say President Donald John Trump, but they made him state and spell his name for the record. There's no exceptions. There's something that's healthy about that uniformity. It doesn't matter who you are. You're Donald Trump. You're going to state and spell your name for the record. But Fani Willis has to introduce herself as District Attorney Fani Willis. Oh my God. So much hubris. So much hubris. But it's an insecurity it's an insecure type of hubris. Okay? One of the and I learned this as a teenager, that when I was when I was a teenager, one of the greatest, and some would say arguably the last leading sage of Orthodox Jewry, who died in the 80s, was Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. Okay? And some say that there's been no equal since then, nor should we anticipate there being an equal. And I'm not looking to get into whole Jewish culture type of thing. But I was told that if his phone rang, he would answer it with, hello, this is Moshe, who's calling. Like, he would just introduce himself by his first name and ask who's calling. You don't need, if you actually aren't sitting there concerned about how people are looking at you, you don't need to put on the puffery and the airs. And that's actually the most base thing in the world, is that I'm not worried that you know who I am. Because ultimately, if you spend 5 minutes with me, you'll know who I am. And that's one of the reasons, like, I never felt like, oh, I need to sort of tell people. I never give a title. I never give anything. I tried to learn from that and tell myself, like, yeah, look, stop worrying about telling people what titles you've earned. Just earn it in front of them. And if you can't earn it in front of them, you don't deserve it. Right? If you can't earn it in front of them, you don't deserve it. Stop worrying about how people are calling you. And it's only when you're insecure and have a desperate need for recognition and are concerned that you're not going to be able to earn their respect, that's when you need the title. It's like, whoa. Do you know who you're talking to? I've held this position. I've held that position. It's almost like when you don't feel like you merited those titles, that's when you really use the title, because this is like your claim to fame, is that you have that title. This is what's happening in the gallery. This is what's happening right now live in the courtroom, in case you're wondering. We're all watching.
You have an update for us, sir?
I believe he's still waiting to see.
Hopefully. Would be, well, that's not an update. We're still waiting.
Oh, okay, you're that. I don't know where Adam went.
That's Steve Sido sitting in the background over there. I think it's Steve. I keep calling him Steve. For all I know, his name is actually like Richard. I should check out. I'm gonna check. No, I'll stop calling him that. Trump attorney. He earned the right for me to look up his name. It is Steven Sido. I thought it was. It is Steven Sido. I keep calling him that, and I was like, if I find out that his name is like Jimmy, I'm going to be like really upset. I'm going to be really embarrassed by that.
What I said. I was like, order. Only remedies.
So right now, it seems the judge is reviewing questions that they're anticipating are going to be asked to Terence Bradley. Because Terence Bradley is a longtime friend of Wade, and he's also a at some point becomes his attorney. And there's a very interesting question because the divorce papers are not filed until November 2nd, 2021. And the reason I know it was filed November 2nd, 2021 is because he's retained to be counsel to serve as special prosecutor for Fulton County by Fani Willis one day earlier on November 1st, 2021. So since and the next day is when he files for divorce. Who files for divorce on his behalf? His partner, longtime friend, Terence Bradley. So then you have to ask yourself, okay, definitely before he's filing those papers, conversations that he's having with him related to his divorce are all protected and privileged. Does that mean that every conversation he has with him is privileged? Any conversation he has with him? Clearly not. He's having a conversation with him which are related to how they're running their business, related to some client who's is coming in next week because they're partners in a law firm. Some client who's coming in next week to handle their own divorce or to handle some other legal matter that the firm may represent. None of this would be privileged, and he talks to Bradley about that. Even if they're if it's on November 2nd, 2021, that itself, it happens on that day. And there's a conversation between Bradley and Wade about some client who's coming down to the office later that day. That's not a privileged communication that Bradley owes to Wade. Maybe they'll owe it to that other client, but they wouldn't owe it to Wade. So this over here, we're talking about privileges that are owed by Bradley to Wade because Wade is the client of Bradley in the context of his divorce. But it has to be things that are related to his divorce. Now, if 2 years before he gets divorced, he starts talking about some girlfriend he has, and it doesn't seem like he's about to get divorced, to qualify that as part of his divorce, when for all you know, he's not even thinking that he would ever use Bradley as his attorney at that point. To just all of a sudden say that's qualified seems to be excessive. It seems to be a little bit excessive. And to my personal opinion, now the judge can find otherwise. But all the conversations that Bradley, and certainly to the extent that Bradley has observations, not things that Wade tells him, communications from Wade to Bradley, which is where you typically would see privilege attach, confidentiality privilege attach and come into effect. That's where we typically see that there's this privilege. Wade says something, gives information to Bradley that Bradley only has because he's serving as his attorney. That's where we see the privilege attach. Let's say that after they have a whole meeting about their divorce, let's say they're not lifelong friends, they have a whole meeting about their divorce. And as he's walking out of the meeting, he sees him walk over to some girlfriend and just start making out with them. That's an observation that the attorney has, which is likely not privileged. Not privileged, because observations are not communications from the client to the attorney. They're just the attorney's own personal observations. Now, normally, if you think about the type of testimony that you're trying to elicit, most testimony you're trying to elicit is going to be about the person's observations, not conversations. The only time you can ask them, because if you ask them about the conversations, right away, you can expect your adversary is going to say objection, hearsay, and that will probably be sustained. Wade is not a party opponent here. There are exceptions to hearsay. One of those exceptions would be it's a party opponent. It's difficult to make a claim that Wade is a party opponent. He might qualify as a party opponent because you're trying to disqualify Wade. So arguably, in this context, he could be considered a party opponent. That would be a judicial decision. and that might vary from one jurisdiction to another, meaning that the law in Georgia might be very different from the law in New York, which is where I practice. And also, even the law in Georgia might be applied differently from one judge to another within the state of Georgia. What I'm saying is whether or not we would view Wade as a party opponent is an interesting legal question, which is not sitting before us right now. We would sort of cross that bridge when we get there. And we would get there if we're going to be asked, if there are going to be questions that are raised with respect to conversations where Wade says something to Bradley, and Bradley is asked to testify about that. And we anticipate that, I would anticipate the state would say objection hearsay. And then the question is Wade an adverse party? Is it a statement against interest, which would give its added credibility and perhaps serve as an exception to hearsay? So these are all various issues that we should anticipate will likely come up in the context of Bradley's testimony. But we are definitely going to hear objection privilege. And where that line, even if the judge is backstage right now in camera, when I say backstage, I actually mean in his courtroom, because he will frequently have conversations in the back room where it's going to be two attorneys, or in this case, perhaps a gaggle of attorneys who are sitting in his chambers, usually with an attorney and with a clerk or an assistant who's going to sit there and he's going to ask them, okay, what are you anticipating asking? What do you expect? And discussing with him, why do you need this? Is this relevant? Is this actually privileged? Is it not privileged? He might be taking arguments from the other side on that to try and sort this out before he gets out there. And whichever side ends up losing that, they're probably going to want to have a repeat of that conversation in front of the court so that they can appeal that. Because if it's not on the record, if it's not taken down as part of the court proceedings by the court reporter, it doesn't become part of the record. And if it's not part of the record, you cannot appeal it. So you but if there's a lot of different conversations and he's sort of parsing out and saying, okay, this you can ask, this you can't ask, this you cannot ask. And the reason you would have it, you might ask yourself, if they're just going to repeat it in front of the court reporter, why go through it now? Why go through it in camera back in chambers? And there are a number of different reasons that could happen. It's most common for that to happen where you don't want to have the jury overhearing it, but there's no jury over here, so that's not relevant. But the other reason you would have it is because you basically say, I want to just sort of parse through this quickly and get through what questions are you trying to get to, what type of information are you trying to get, how does that qualify, and then and hope that you can sort of expedite it, especially if you can sort of look through a list of questions and the judge is basically looking through a whole long list of questions, and he can sit there and just basically take a big X and say, not this section here, not this section there. And then if the attorney whose questions he's striking and saying, don't ask this, the attorney will probably give in on some of those, and on others they might make a big deal about. But this way, a lot of that whole back and forth gets shortened. So that's likely why they're doing this right now backstage, because there's no in this setting, there's no risk of infecting a jury. Sometimes they'll send the jury out. Frequently they'll send the jury out if it's something that arises that's unexpected. But in this setting over here, it's most likely that the judge is just trying to be judiciously economical and trying to wrap this thing up. DA is the new doctor. Put some respect on it. Is the new DA is the new DR? I mean, like Dr. Fauci. Krabby Tiger says, Joe, so Wade was in a romantic relationship for over a year with Fani for less than $1 million. I'd be looking at 1.5 before I would even think about it. Let's up to $1 billion. Oh, you're saying to tap that? You're trying to say tap that? You're saying that would be your price, your asking price? Over here with Fani for less than $1 million. Well, you know what? Sometimes, brother, it's cold out there. It's cold out there. Sometimes you got to earn. Sometimes you got to earn. What am I going to tell you? I don't know what to tell you. You were late turning in. What the heck is, how do you show up so late? We're an hour and 10 minutes in. You're late tuning in. Where is she? All right. Those of you who are late tuning in, I'm going to let you know. I hate to burst your bubble. We're probably not going to see Fani for a few hours. The state said that they're going to hold off on cross-examining her. Does that mean that she's gone? No, not at all. She very likely will be the first witness that they call. But they basically said, we're holding off on doing cross of her. And that way there's no cross, there's no redirect. And they put Ashley Merchant feet to the fire that call your next witness. Call your next witness. Because that's what we're up to. We're up to the cross of Fani Willis. But they basically say we're reserving the right to call Fani when we present our opposition to this motion. When we get to the second half of this. They have no need to call her now. So we're reserving our right to call her. And they're supposed to begin today. So I would expect that sometime after lunch, we should anticipate Fani coming back to the stand. I don't see this thing finishing today. I don't see this evidentiary hearing finishing today, but who knows? Look, for all we know, there's only 1 or 2 more witnesses that the defense are going to call. The state says that they're going to take 4 or 5 hours. So could happen. Could happen. They say 3 or 4 witnesses, 4 or 5 hours. So Chris is smart, quick, no fear attorney for Trump before. Cool. All right. Go get him, Chris. That's encouraging, Della. Glad to hear that. Definitely glad to hear that. So that is where we are at. That's where we're at right now. All right. Eric, thank you so much. I appreciate you for gifting the Good Logic membership. It's always good to see you, brother. It's very thoughtful. TextVet says they're waiting on Fani because they're finding her new WWE intro song for her next appearance. For me, it was always Enter Sandman. Can't wait to see that heel entrance. For me, it was always Enter Sandman. When I was in fantasy, I was doing my fantasy baseball league. So this is back when Mariano was still the dominant closer. So I had a partner, and my partner would always begin negotiations and trade talk, and I would be the one to try and hammer it home. And afterwards, when I call up my report, I would call up and let my partner know how things went. So he'd be playing Enter. He's like, "Here come the closer! Here come the closer! Let's play Enter the Sandman," because that was Mariano's intro song. So, Bob Piffle, what are the odds that Nathan ever said, "Fani got a nice fanny"? I don't know. These are interesting questions, which the world can only wonder. We can only wonder how. Could be. Let's see what we got here. Nothing's happening. Nothing.
I know.
No. I know what you're saying. I don't think, that went over, Joe. No, I know exactly what happened here. Typos like that are not appreciated. Not at all. Appreciated. Super chat, your guess for Fani entrance, so my money is on Aretha Franklin. RESPECT. Actually, so you think, it's funny because it's funny you have to choose that. It's funny you choose that one out of any one of them, because makes me think of this.
Wow.
I created that clip. Suck it to me, 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 suck it to me. So many times yesterday when she was on the stand, I wanted to hit this clip. You sir are a liar. It was more Wade. Actually, that was more Wade. It was really more when we saw Fani just start going off on her thing. It's like I was just the entire time, like the first hour of her testimony, when she would just be like rambling and rambling. I was just like, I don't remember asking you a damn thing. That's what Ashley needed to say. That's what Ashley needed to say over and over again. Over and over again. Over and over again. Oh my gosh. Whew. Yeah. Yeah. So my clips have an echo. Oh. Why is that? Why are they echoing? That's not supposed to be. That's very annoying. Without the echo, it's much funnier. Hello. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. Why is there an echo? Could be because I have more than one thing open. I do want to make sure that I don't end up when they come out. I should double check this. Let me do a little check here because I was opening up so many different potential. This I definitely want to close that out. I want to make sure that when they come out here, I'm not going to have. I'm glad I actually came across that issue because I want to make sure that when he comes out and starts talking, we're not going to have multiple. Because I spent so much time trying to find the best possible feed that I am at risk of having more than one of these stupid boxes open. I think I'm good though. Yeah, I am good. I shut down everything else. Okay, so we're just here. I'm good. This is what's happening. There's nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate you. All right. So this is the earliest feed that we have out there. I am going to check it over here. You would never know that. Let's go. To answer your question, I am too young to remember the show Laughing. I have seen clips from it with the whole socket to me. And it just makes me think that the 60s were a time that you had to either live there to appreciate it or you're not going to appreciate it. Because that's not comedy. That's just not comedy. Let me see if I can... Danny was really mad at the end of her stream. Why? Why was she mad? Why was she mad? Mhm. No, definitely not. Oh my God, no, ew, no, ew, no, ew, ew. I actually look at myself as older than Generation X. I've had many arguments, even though everyone tries putting me as Generation X. I always looked at Generation X as being like 5 years younger than me. And then I was born, because I was born 1970. So like my teens were spent in the 80s. And so I always looked at the 90s as like, it's past like the wild heydays of my youth. And everyone's trying to tell me that I'm Generation X. And I guess technically, if you look at the way I'm dressed right this moment, it's a very Gen X look. It's a very Gen X with like the double shirts. Like a t-shirt under a regular shirt, which I throw on a jacket to add a lawyerly feel to it. So I guess that's actually very much a Gen X thing, because in Gen X, we would always wear like a plaid shirt over like a t-shirt. And that was totally stolen from Kurt Cobain. Not going to kid you. But I don't look at myself, I'm not Gen X. I look at it as like, no, I'm dressed like the mannequin is dressed. Like the mannequins are always wearing 3 layers of clothing. Why shouldn't I be wearing 3 layers of clothing? So I never heard of the me generation. But I've had big arguments. This Eric Hunley is literally 2 weeks younger than me. Like I was born late June 1970. He's born July 1970. And he keeps saying he's Gen X. I was like, I don't know. Maybe Gen X started when you were born. But I'm older than Gen X. So this is not kind. This is not kind at all. All right, I had a phase where I was singing that. What's new? What's new, pussycat? No, I don't want to be a boomer. I'm actually perfectly happy with the age that I am. I don't want to be younger. I don't want to be older. I'm actually perfectly happy and content with the age that I am. Okay, this is definitely not true, because you're saying I'm smack dab Gen X. Smack dab Gen X. That's just not that. I don't know about that. So much hate. So much hate. Oh my gosh. Look, technical deficiencies. Let me tell you something, okay? Look, I've had my dad on my stream a lot. That's where you see real boomer. Although technically he was born before. He predates baby boomer, because baby boomer were people born after World War II, and he was born in the middle of World War II. So yeah, all right. I definitely was a teen in the 80s. I like that. I like that. Breathing into the mic. It's better. No, I can't. I've been trying to find them for a long time, but I struggle to find them. Gen X are born after 1960, technically. A lot of people have been born since 1960, so that's not true. So wait, what's Gen Y? What's Gen Y? Someone tell me what Gen Y is. God. John. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. And that's a live feed of what's happening in the courtroom. When we were watching yesterday, when you see the better picture, and this is one of the things, like I was trying to explain, it's a real struggle. For me personally, I actually like the better video as long as the audio is sufficient. I personally would go with that, which is why yesterday all day I was watching the Fox feed, because the audio wasn't really crisp. There was someone who was like the entire time was just sort of like tapping or something in the back, and it was only in my right ear, not in my left ear, and half the time I was sitting there like this because it got so annoying. But the video quality was much better, much better than this, where you can't really see anything, and there's multiple camera angles. And especially if you're not on a big screen, it's impossible to see anything that's happening. It just becomes like you're listening to a radio, and I'm not, or a podcast. And I far prefer seeing the facial expressions of the person on the witness stand. It's just a different experience, which I think is superior. That's my choice. But I've been told by other podcasters, and my audience seems to lean very heavily. Whenever I ask that question, my audience invariably comes out like at least 2-1 in favor of the superior audio. So I sort of defer to that, even though my personal leaning is in the minority. I'm going to ask that question. Assuming that the audio is audible. That's what I'm going to do. That's a good time to hit that poll. Let me do that. Might as well be productive. Get something done while we're waiting for Judge McAfee to sort out his odds and ends. What's new, pussycat? Whoa. Wait a second. Why is this not? Okay. I put a poll up. You guys tell me. Start a poll. You're about to hear me clacking on my keyboard. Which is preferable. It's because most of us are listening to you while we work. We can't see the visual anyway, and watching court without understanding what's happening because the booty audio is useless. See, that explains it. That explains it. That really is a very logical explanation that you just gave there. See, I don't really think about that because I rarely follow podcasts that way. When I'm watching, see, that explains the difference. Because me, I'll try to get locked into what it is that I'm watching. And I guess also when I'm the one who's podcasting, so like, yeah, I'm sitting here gauging their facial reactions. That's a good answer. I'm curious to see how this comes out in my poll here. lots to do, pussycat. I'm feeling a little tricked here by Judge McAfee, who made me show up at 9:00 in the morning. Now it's 10:25 and nothing's happened yet. Like literally nothing. Nothing's happened. Virtual says, prefer better audio during the day because I only really listen during work. You see, that's what Tex Vet was just saying. He's like, we're not watching, Joe. We're just listening to you ramble on and on. We're listening to the testimony. It makes sense. It does. It does make sense. I really wish there was some way to sync the video and audio. The problem is that with these Zoom court conferences, which look, I definitely appreciate courts that provide this, and I'm gonna express my appreciation for the Georgian court system, that you literally can search up any judge and there's a video feed of what's happening in their courtroom. That's a phenomenal thing, and that's the way it should be in every courtroom in America. Certainly any courtroom of any significance, maybe not traffic court, but any courtroom of any significance. I'm very into transparency, and there's no reason that we shouldn't have that. The problem with the Zoom feed is that there's no delay at all, and you can't go back, like even like 10 seconds. It's like basically there's no recording. I mean, certainly not more than 60 seconds, that's for sure. I'm not even sure if it's right. Maybe. Well, this is looking like this Zoom feed I can go back on. That's really interesting. In Colorado, on their Zoom feed, you cannot go back. This one looks like you can go back. That is much, much better. Much, much better. Yeah, well, anyhow. You just sent a live feed of me typing on Twitter so I can hear how loud it is? That's what happened? You just sent that to me? So I can appreciate just how freaking clackety-clack it is? I should get myself a new keyboard. I'm going to be like embarrassed when I listen to this. Oh my God, what the heck is that? That's ridiculous. That's crazy. My nose is whistling? Really? I don't think I'm breathing through my nose. Why are people saying my mic game is off today? All right, I'm going to be right back. You'll make me self-conscious now. You'll make me self-conscious. I'll be right back.
So. Yeah, y'all need to package all of this. You might say it again, but I expect What's I heard is you're good. No. Yeah, don't think so. Wow. Yeah. Good try. Good try. Well, I know
Okay. Still nothing happening. That's the first thing I saw when I came back here. Yes, that's the goal. The mouse scroll wheel is loud too. You know, this is everyone's getting very, very. Everyone's here, such a tech expert. You all have your state of the art equipment. I got you. I got you. Fine. I happen to like this mouse. I don't want to give it up because it's got this little green flashing light which changes colors on me all the time. I never know what color it's going to be next. So I like my mouse. I don't want to give up my mouse. I like my colorful mouse. It makes it easy to find if it ever falls, which happened once before. So yeah, I like my mouse. I don't give my mouse. You guys would have me change my mouse, my mouse, my mouse, my mic, and my nose. As long as if I could change my mouse, my mic, and my nose, this would be state of the art. Can we stop picking on your nose? See what I did there? Triple. Wait, 1, 2. Yeah, I like it. I like it. That was pretty well done. I like that one a lot, actually. FYI, I've been a sub since you were at 2K. Really? Really? Today I found I was no longer subbed, and I've now tried sub 2 times this morning. The struggle is real. It's like an astonishing thing, and this is something I've been dealing with for years. 2 years ago. You want to know how bad it is? It's so bad 2 years ago that I was on Nick Ricada's stream. So in the description, you can tag other channels. Other channels. You can tag them. And so you press @Good Logic and it will tag me. And he said, put @Good Logic, and then like and it gets highlighted. You can see it changes color when it takes. You can even click on the name, it'll change color. And he said he did it like 6 times, and it would just show for a second and then unclick. And then unclick. Like it was like as if there was no clickable link anymore. And he said he had to do it like 7 times on my name before finally it was like, okay, fine. I get regular comments of people telling me that they're unsubbed. It happens all the time. This is not. I don't know any. I seriously don't know anyone else who's had it as consistently. I've seen other people lose subs. I've seen other people lose subs, but I'm saying as consistently where YouTube is just like, no, F this guy. F him. F. I've seen it over and over again. Like just day by day. It's impossible to lose between 9 and 20 subs every single day. Which you say, okay, what's 9 subs when you have 90,000? Yeah, but it's like, 9 to 15 subs a day. Over the course of a month, that's 450 subs. You have that for a few months. And that's how you see how I was once at 94,000 and I'm struggling to get back to 92. It's like you just start losing 15 a day. The struggle is real. And the only time I gain new subs is when I do these trials. When I'm covering court proceedings, if my live streaming at night, I never get new subs. That just doesn't work. Nothing happens. It doesn't get fed into anyone's algorithm. When I do these court streams, so that seems to find its way into people's algorithms. Some people will find me, and then when people find me, they tend to sub up, and then they get unsubbed, like you. But appreciate the long time support since I had 2,000. Wow, it's a long time, long time. Thank you, brother. Picking on you, picking your nose, and the stereotype nose being teased or picked on. There's the Jew thing thrown in there also. I should be on the new B-Rad Malibu's Most Wanted. Yeah. Whistle while you work. Yeah, not just whistling Dixie either. So. All right. Well, it was an opportunity for me to trim down my beard while we're waiting here. Nothing's happening. How does he do this to us? Judge McAfee. He's sick. Gosh.
Adam, did you get the case?
I feel like he's making me sick. Judge McAfee gave me a virus. I know what I said. You heard me. I should check. You know what I forgot? I realized I didn't do? I didn't start a chat here. Shame on me. I meant to do that. Let's see if there's a check going on over here. Oh, let's close this down. Stop that chat. Yes, stop. I still can't believe she was wearing her dress backwards. To me, that's hilarious. I'm checking out my locals and seeing if there's anything I can share with you while we're waiting there, because they usually have some good stuff in there. This is what's happening here. Big Fanny's not. It's supposed to be on. She'll probably be on later today. This is an interesting comment that came up here. Make this a little lower. That's good at all. So someone asked this question, saying, I found this comment in another section. I'm going to bring this up here so you can all see. This is sort of asking my opinion on this. I wasn't able to watch all Joe's stream. My objective opinion, the judge has sided already either way. I think he knows he must remove both of them. However, he is helping Fani and looks like he wants to spare them both from disbarment and indictments. Okay. The judge will remove them, but word his decision like the bottom report says they do not face disbarment or criminal charges. They will not face disbarment. Neither of them will face disbarment. Neither of them will face any sort of damage to their possession. Neither of them. Even if he were to decide his favor, completely in favor of defendants, I respectfully disagree with this opinion. Neither Fani will retain her position as district attorney. And there's certainly no criminal charges. They didn't commit any crimes. They didn't commit any crimes. So, yeah. The judge will remove them, but word his decision like the bottom reports that they do not face disbarment or criminal charges. Yeah, I don't see that. He has severely limited the scope of hearing and excluded perhaps the biggest conflict of interest issues, namely the church speech and White House trips. That's related. The church speech was really a jury taint thing. It's really not relevant here. He's hushing the lawyers, but basically letting Fani run the courtroom. I think that was he was intimidated by Fani. I talked about that on my show last night. Ashley steamrolled Wade. I don't think she steamrolled him, but I think she was effective. She was okay. I don't think she steamrolled him. I think that he is so poor as a witness and has no idea how poor he looks as a witness. I think he's just incompetent. I think he's utterly incompetent. It's not even like this is getting annoying over there. I think Wade, personally, my personal opinion is that Wade is incompetent. I just think he's just not a good attorney. That's why. That's another reason. I think even Fani showed that she's a little bit incompetent about the law. She doesn't really understand the law. When she's sitting there and she hears objections, speculation, calls for speculation, and she's like, "No, I understand the question." It's like, no, you don't understand what objection speculation means. You're a former judge, and you don't understand what objection speculation means. That's horrifying. This is horrifying. However, Fani murdered Ashley and chopped her up. I do think that Fani dominated Ashley. I think that's true. That I agree. Ashley was scared against Fani. Yeah. Her whole questioning never recovered from Fani's tongue lashings. Wade is toast. No way he stays on. But by some miracle, Fani could stay. I feel they're joined at the hip, so if one goes, the other must too. But Fani is kicking their asses right now. So I don't know, maybe this was in the middle of the testimony. This does not seem like it was written by an attorney, but it's interesting to see what a layperson thinks when they're watching it, because we'll sort of get like a feel for how the public is perceiving this. And I think a lot of this sounds like it's rooted in just like trying to avoid being partisan. And I appreciate that. Just making sure, doing a little checkup here. So I think a lot of this is rooted in being nonpartisan, and I appreciate that. I do think that the author here, and I don't know if this is a man or woman, I don't care, but I think that Ashley was scared, was intimidated, allowed Fani to steamroll over. I think the judge was scared of Fani. And I think that Ashley really needed to show more backbone. And I think the judge also should have shown more backbone. The reason Fani is what Fani is because people cower. And as soon as a real lawyer stood up there in Steve Sadow and was like showing he wasn't going to take any crap and that he knows how to formulate a question, her entire demeanor and posture changed. I don't think it's because it was a man. I think it's because it was an attorney, an effective attorney, doing what effective attorneys do. So answer the question. Now let's proceed. And if you're sort of wishy-washy or allowing the witness to just get up on a soapbox or stand on your shoulders and give a speech, that's what someone like Fani will do. And that's what Fani did. Wade doesn't have the same level of control of the situation that he was, because he could have done the same thing. Although he was in a less naturally intimidating position because he's not district attorney. And I think the idea that she was a district attorney sitting there answering questions about her love life on the stand is sort of, no other attorney has ever been in that position until Ashley. Ashley was the first one to wade into those waters, pardon the pun. I guess Nathan waded in there also, but she's the first one to wade in as an attorney questioning a district attorney on the stand about her love life. I'm fairly certain that's never happened in American history before. I'm just very confident in saying that. Very confident in saying no district attorney has ever been drilled on the stand about their love life. That being said, if you treat every situation as like we're lawyers, we're doing this professionally, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about because this is something as far as we're just trying to follow the law here, then you're not going to be overwhelmed by the moment. And I do feel like she was overwhelmed by the moment, and Steve Sadow showed us how it should be done. Still nothing happening here. So that was the first thing that came across my screen here. Let me pull this back in here. Get to some comments that people throw up. Got that. Bradley's not there. Doctor appointment. Thank you. Every man deserves his beard comment. It makes me stand a little taller each time. Should probably stop. I'm 6'4". Oh, I see what you did there. Whistle while you work. Thank you. Thank you very much. You'll have more to do if you check Rumble chat. I keep checking Rumble chat. Judge is not back. Judge is not back. This is live. This is a live feed here. Live feed on Zoom. Judge is not back. What are you talking about? You're all full of crap. A bunch of lying liars and the liars who lie. Judge is back. Everyone loves to do that. Judge is back. K.Ray says, YouTube just ate my super chat. So here's another $5. Has anyone brought up her admitting she kept campaign funds at her house? Can she be charged? She can be charged. That's what I missed. That's what I was supposed to check on. She can be charged. The question is, Will she be charged? And who's charging her? I mean, there could be an investigation into her and then charges brought against her. It's not. I just don't. I think she's so politically connected. I don't think that's going to happen. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Finally, for the love of God. No criminal charge with money laundering, tax dodging by misrepresenting his income. The $300K they supposedly got only $100K of. What about splitting the attorney fund account?
All right, we're back on the record.
Maybe.
And I've been informed that Mr. Bradley is still not with us in person. However, there's a proposal to potentially move on to other witnesses. Why don't we start with the state? Ms. Cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, in order to be efficient with the court's time, we have a witness here and out of order, and it sounds as though there's no objection from the defense, so we can do that at the court's convenience.
We don't have any problem taking him out of order, but it's our understanding it's Governor Barnes, and he's here to establish that he was the first choice.
Robert
Ms. Willis,
Barnes?
and she testified to that, so I think it's just cumulative. I don't know why we need to call him to establish the fact that's already been established. We're not refuting that fact. We can impeach her on that fact.
Ms. Cross, I think did she say it was her first choice? Did she not say who was her first choice?
I think I don't believe that the governor's name was mentioned. I think there are some facts and circumstances surrounding the search for someone to take over the lead of this investigation at that time. Now, prosecution is something that, given the allegations in the case, is certainly relevant.
All right, and it doesn't sound like it would be all that long a witness
I don't.
anyhow. All right, so in that case, we can transition over. And Ms. Cross, I'd like to call your witness.
Thank you. The state would call Governor Roy Barnes.
And Judge, just so I'm clear, so you had told us not to ask questions about qualifications, so we did not ask any of our witnesses about qualifications. So if the state's now going to bring in evidence of that, we would just ask permission to now be able to go into that.
Sounds to me, well, Ms. Cross.
If you want to ask Governor Barnes about his qualifications, I mean, that's certainly something he'd have knowledge of. I don't know what his basis of knowledge for anyone else's qualifications might be, but I also don't think that opens the door to anything other than what my understanding of what the testimony was.
As I hear it, the issue of qualifications versus who was her first choice is going to be relevant to her intent, maybe, and perhaps that issue of the case in whole. I don't think that necessarily opens the door. We'll see how it goes.
I believe he's being brought up, Your Honor.
All right.
Governor Roy Barnes. He's the last Democrat to be governor of Georgia. He served from 1999 to 2003, governor of Georgia. Taking the stand. I need Fani today. Who doesn't need Fani every day? Mina saying she's done, others saying should be called. What is happening? It's possible the state has a choice to call her later or not. We don't know if she will. If they will. So no one can tell you definitively what's going to happen. I'm not sure the state knows definitively whether or not they're going to call her. But they opted to not cross her, so there's no redirect. I think there's a good chance they'll call her, but it probably depends on how well they feel their witnesses do. I think they might feel like she did well enough on direct with Ashley, so we don't know. Danny had speculated the reason the judge won't allow him to go into material evidence is maybe potential future or even current investigation. I don't know that the judge would know about these investigations. He's in the judiciary branch. That would be the executive branch. I don't know. It's possible he knows. There certainly is a lot of overlap there. He would probably need to be somewhat connected to know, or someone from the executive branch would have to tell him. I think that's really... Can't say it's impossible. I'm not sure why even that would keep him from going into material evidence. If anything, the executive branch would want him to call them up. I don't really see how that, to me, that doesn't make sense.
Ms. Cross, assuming this may be a 10 to 15-minute witness, does the state have other witnesses on deck that they would like to go forward with as well?
Yes, we've called to gather everyone we could, so we can go forward with another witness, I believe, after this one.
All right, appreciate it.
DUI guy is during a 1A First Amendment case for the Hendry YouTube channel guy. Got arrested for filming. Really? Interesting. I don't know who the Hendry YouTube guy is, but oh, God bless you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Jenny, you are awesome. Thank you so much for popping in here and showing your support. I will say this on the whole like and subscribe thing. This is where I gain followers. So if you could like and subscribe and also follow my locals at goodlodger.locals.com, I'd be much obliged. That is where you get notifications, even when YouTube will invariably unsubscribe you. So that way you know that you can find me. I also want to point out that whenever I'm streaming a trial, I always try to remember on the bottom, check the banner on the bottom, and I'll let you know whose witness it is, who's calling it, the name of the witness, the title, a relationship to the case, whether it's direct or cross. So I always try to throw that into the banner. So you should always, if you ever walk into a trial that I'm covering, usually you can figure out right away who and what is happening.
Roy Eugene Barnes, Royeugene, Barnes, Barnes.
Say, good morning, Mr. Barnes. Can you tell the court a little bit about your background as it relates to your service in public service?
I was first elected to the state senate in 1974 from Cobb County, and I served 16 years there. And then in 1990, I ran for governor and was defeated. And 2 years later, I went back to the House of Representatives. I was elected to the House of Representatives, served 6 years till I was elected governor in 1998, and I served in that position till January of 2003.
And after serving in the position of governor, can you tell the court a little bit about what you transitioned into after your public service?
I did exactly what I was doing before. I was elected. I went back to practicing law in Marietta, Georgia, with my daughter, who's now judge of the state court, and my son-in-law. And now we have, I think, 6 or 7 lawyers. Charlie Bailey back there was one of them at one time.
Okay. And Governor Barnes, would you consider yourself to be a trial lawyer?
Yes. That's,
okay.
We don't write contracts or we don't write wills. All we do is try cases.
And I want to direct your attention back to 2021, where you were approached by the district attorney of Fulton County, Fani Willis, about being a special prosecutor.
I was. I don't recall the exact date, but I know it was sometime in 2021. And she asked me to come down, and I met with her and Nathan Wade, and there were several other in the meeting. She asked me, said they were beginning this investigation, and she asked me if I'd be interested in being special prosecutor, to which I replied that I had mouths to feed at a law office, and that I would not do that.
Because he's a successful litigator.
Also, I just had a bad, well, I won't say bad because it happens from time to time, but I just had a FBI to report a fella, a militia trainer, to me that said they were concerned that he was making threats against me. And because I thought it was because of the flag, but I asked him and he said, no, it was because I was too close to the Jews, quote unquote. And I told DA Willis I'd lived with bodyguards for 4 years and I didn't like it. And I wasn't going to live with bodyguards for the rest of my life.
So ultimately you turned down.
You're persecuted.
Yeah, I told her. I said,
it's about the money. Come on. You're a successful lawyer. You're a former governor. You're a successful lawyer. You're charging $1,000 an hour. She's offering $250.
Morning, Governor Barnes.
Morning.
How are you?
He was making. He's making.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
80 grand a year.
Sometime in 2021. Do you remember?
I think it was. I don't remember the dates. They all go. I could look it up on my calendar at the office, but I don't have that.
Well, I want to ask you about some statements that Ms. Willis made March 28th, 2021. She was talking about assembling a team for this case. Are you familiar with her work assembling a team for this case?
Well, I assume that's what she was talking to me about. But besides that, I don't know anything.
And I know you had said you had a meeting with some folks and Mr. Wade was at that meeting.
Correct.
Okay. So he was with the district attorney interviewing you about taking this case.
Well, of course, I know Nathan very well, as you do.
Yes.
And I exchanged pleasantries with him, but the conversation was with Ms. Willis.
Okay, with Ms. Willis. Were you aware at the time that her team consisted of Brian Watkins, Megan Vargas, Sonia Allen, Shannon Trotty, Sal Chan, and John Floyd? She had reported that was her team on this case.
I know John Floyd was involved, and she probably told me the others, but listen, I barely remember what case I tried last year, much less every word that was said in the conversation.
I understand, fair enough. But she said she was looking to hire more lawyers and investigators to work on this case.
She told me, it was to me, she said, would you be interested in being special prosecutor in this case? And I gave the reply that I've already known. I mean, about hiring other lawyers or whatever, I don't know. All I can testify to is what she told me.
Did she tell you at all why she wanted to hire special counsel and not use someone who was an ADA, not have an actual employee?
Good question.
No, she did not. I mean, we did not discuss that. And, but I would assume it was because in a case as big as this, that you'd have to have some assistant help. I know John Floyd has been in some cases over the years out in Cobb County, for example, and others.
Would you agree that an employee of her office, someone who was paid a state salary or a county salary as an ADA, could handle a case like this?
I couldn't tell you that unless I knew the person, knew their experience, and really had been with them in a courtroom to pass an opinion on that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Say no.
Hello, Mr. Sadow.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
I hope you're well.
I'm doing fine, just getting older, but that beats alternative.
That's true, but that applies to all of us, I believe.
Yes.
I think you indicated that if you had your calendar, you'd be able to pinpoint a date for
I
it.
would.
Is there a way for you, for example, at a break before you actually leave to contact your folks to see if you can get a date?
Find out how much before November
Yes, I
2021
could.
it was.
I don't know how far back we archived those, but I assume I could.
Would you be willing to give that a shot for us?
I mean, I'll do whatever the court instructs.
So if I ask the court and the court says, go ahead and you could do it, that's all right?
I'll do whatever the court instructs.
I hear you.
And you should too.
We always,
I try
all
to live
attorneys
by
say
those
that.
words. I'm not always successful, but I try. If I pinpoint a date, for example, I think the record is clear that Mr. Wade was hired for the position on November 1 of 2021. Does that help you at all?
No, it does not.
Okay. Then let's go to the meeting. It sounds like it was just one meeting.
Yes.
And could you tell us where that meeting took place, if you
It
remember?
was in the conference room adjacent to the district attorney's office.
So it was it in this, or the adjoining building?
It was in the Lewis Slayton building, yeah.
And District Attorney Willis was there, obviously, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And Mr. Wade was there?
The best I recall, now I could be mistaken about that. It's like anything that far away, but that's my recollection.
Do you have a recollection of anyone else being present?
Yeah, there were some other folks, but I don't remember.
Do you remember, were you introduced to Mr. Wade by anything other than you already knew him? Was he given
No,
a title
I
or
would have
anything?
known him.
So at least as you're there, if I heard you correctly, Miss Willis did all the talking, Mr. Wade did not.
I mean, we exchanged pleasantries, but as far as the basis of the conversation, the reason I was there, Ms. Willis didn't talk.
And would you be able to give us an estimate of how long this meeting lasted? Just rough.
Probably an hour.
And during the meeting, you made it clear, but it was the thanks for the offer, but no thank you.
Oh, yes, I did. As I said, I started off as a prosecutor, and for about 10 or 15 years, I did nothing but criminal. And then, but I've tried to move away from it and do primarily civil now. Mr. Gillen and I have done some white collar cases over in federal court. I've got one over there right now, but it's generally business related, you know, where I have a client that's got a kid or him getting indicted. And the case I have over there now is an alleged fraud case.
Fair to say that based on your career and the work that you've done, you've handled high profile cases, correct?
I have. I've handled some pretty good cases. I sued Syria one time for beheading a client of mine, recovered $82 million. So I guess that's the best high profile, but that was in DC. I tried that up in DC.
And what would be considered complex cases, you've handled those as well, correct?
Yes, I mean we regularly do mass torts, class actions, business torts, breach of contract, and most of those are complex, requiring many.
Look at the banner.
Experts. We also do malpractice. I did malpractice defense for about 25 years, but since I've returned from the governor's office, I try not to represent an insurance company anymore. And I just tried a malpractice case before Judge Edlin in November. And those are complex cases because of the type of.
And the objective here,
medical.
Was to show she wasn't looking to prosecute to give her boyfriend a job. She first offered the job to Roy Barnes, and he said no.
Did Miss Willis, and this is the last question, did Miss Willis tell you why she had sought you, why you had been her choice?
No, I hadn't, but
it's a good question from Stephen Siddell.
I get consulted fairly often on major cases.
Would you believe, based on the circumstances in which you were given the offer, that it had to do with the fact that
this is
you
a RICO
had
case?
handled complex and high-profile cases in the past?
It could have been. I know her very well. I tried a case against her. She worked for the JQC, and I represented Judge Robert Crawford, Matt Crawford, and she prosecuted him, and I defended him. She beat me at the trial. I turned it around at the Supreme Court.
All right. So you had some experience.
Oh, I had plenty of experience with him. She's a very qualified young. Well, everybody's young to me, but she's a very qualified young.
After that one occasion, did you have any other contact with her in reference to the position itself or who she might be considering?
I had some conversations with her or Jeff DeSantis or some of those, but not really an in-depth, about who she should hire or anything like that.
Did the name Nathan Wade come up in those conversations with her?
Yeah.
No, right?
So you didn't recommend Nathan Wade for this
Nathan
position.
was there, I thought. Now,
Yeah.
I could be mistaken, but I
So
thought Nathan was
why
there
would
when
she be?
For the
I
conference?
think Nathan was. I'm positive Nathan was there when I
That's
when I met
weird.
with him.
Right. And my question was probably poorly worded, but what I was asking is after the conference and whatever consulting you might have done.
Yes.
Did Miss Willis or Mr. DeSantis bring up the name Nathan Wade as a special prosecutor?
I don't think so. I don't recall one. I mean, Nathan is a good organizer. Nathan can organize stuff. I've watched him.
He's not a
over
good
the years.
attorney. But
So
if
I
you need
wasn't
your closet
surprised that
organized, he'd be really good.
acting as a special prosecutor.
Ooh,
And Mr.
I was
DeSantis, for the record,
surprised.
who was that? Jeff DeSantis?
Jeff DeSantis.
Do you know who he is?
Oh, yes.
Could you tell us who he is for the record?
Jeff works in the DA's office. I knew him when he worked for Thurber Baker.
Know what his role in the DA's office is?
I have no earthly idea.
Is he in media? Does that sound familiar?
He has done media in the past. Jeff has generally been, I like Jeff, and I'm very close to him, but he's generally been on the other side of my campaigns.
All right, so we're talking the best of your recollection, conference, we don't have the date. I'm asking if you could possibly get it, but the conference you have, Mr. Wade could have been there,
Yes, I'm almost sure he was there.
And Ms. Willis, obviously, and Mr. DeSantis was there.
I think Mr. DeSantis was too.
And as far as whether there was anyone else there, you don't
I
have a
don't
present
know.
recollection?
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Next time I'll take a picture, so I'll have an exact,
Next time, hopefully, you won't have to be here.
well, hopefully not.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Mr. Stockton,
No questions, Kelly.
Thank you.
Mr. Durham,
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. McDougall,
Questions for the governor, Ron?
Mr. Rice,
No questions.
Mr. Gillen.
I've been waiting for this for years.
I couldn't give up the chance getting up here, Governor. Good to see you again.
Good to see you,
We've
Craig.
done some work in the past together, haven't we?
I consider you to be one of my best friends and a crackerjack lawyer.
Well, I will say to you,
Crackerjack
on the
lawyer.
record, that I can understand why they came to see you because you're the finest lawyer that I've ever worked with.
Thank you. I need to put you in the next day.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get that. But one or two more questions.
Okay.
You and I working together when it's appropriate, we've had no qualms about filing motions to disqualify the DA, have we?
No.
Matter of fact, you and I successfully disqualified the DA out in Cobb County in the Brown case, didn't we?
We did.
So whatever needs to be done should
You
be done.
represent your client.
You got that. Thank you so much.
Mr. Couture, are you still with us by Zoom?
That's interesting. This is not
I
the
am,
first
Your Honor.
time getting rid of
Any
a DA.
questions? No, sir. All right. And is it Mr. Cromwell from Ms. Latham?
No questions.
It's not really helping your case,
Any
but
redirect, Mr. Abadi?
I got it.
Can this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
so the reason they wanted to bring him in here, Roy Barnes.
The question is, you want the exact date that the meeting occurred? And I'm wondering if we can, if it's really material, the exact date rather than just its proximity to the November 1st hiring. Is that fair? If he knows whether it was far earlier in the year versus maybe closer, would that obviate the need for the exact date?
Get the exact date, of course, and take the best we can get.
Okay, let's start there.
All right.
So
Let me
think, well,
look
you
around.
may take care of it for us, just if we hold in place here.
I'm not sure I have this.
Well, let me try this first, Governor Barnes, before you do a deep dive in the email there. Do you recall what time of year it was when this meeting occurred?
I'm afraid not.
Okay.
I mean, you know.
If you could have told us it was
know how
summer,
this
that would be
is.
helpful.
The cases and the days moved together. I had a fellow a few years ago.
You know, it was
that said I
2021.
represented him in 1978. I told
2020.
him I'd take his word for it.
It definitely seems sincere. Everything Roy Barnes just said sounded completely credible.
No, I would not. I will tell you, I believe lawyers should be well paid, Mr. Sato.
All right, so sir, that's up to you.
I'll have to look. It didn't come up right here.
Okay.
I'll have to-
All right, we'll ask this witness to step down subject to recall. And that might be something the state can present with stipulation as well. All right, thank you, sir. Do we
So-
have an update on Mr. Bradley?
There you go. That's the end. So the reason they wanted Roy Barnes in there is to basically show
He's probably outside. John's gonna go check.
that there was
The
no,
last estimation I
this was
heard
not an
about
objective
11:30.
for
Okay.
Fanny to
If
hire her
that's still the
boyfriend.
case, then Ms. Cross, did you have another witness available?
She offered other people.
Mr. John Floyd, not the special prosecutor, John Floyd. John Floyd is District Attorney Willis's father.
Okay. And is he heading
Oh,
this
wow.
way?
Yes.
All right.
To bring in the DA's dad. I think he's going to be on Zoom. Former Black Panther, John Floyd. I guess this is the test of, this is likely, I'm anticipating, purely speculative on my part, but I'm here and I have a microphone, so I guess that's my job to speculate. From what we've seen so far in the testimony, it seems like he's here to testify about her shuttling from one house to another and why it is that she moved over to the other house. The implication of her moving to the other condo is that it's sort of like her love nest. And Fanny is like, no, that I moved there for my security. That's the only implication as to why they would be making such a big deal about where she was living at the time, is whether or not that was her love nest. That's how I understand it, because they don't seem to be making clear why her place of residence is such a primary importance, unless it's to say that Robin Yearty had access to this place that Fani moved into, and accordingly she spotted them, but she didn't imply that, and she didn't say that in her testimony. So then we're left wondering, speculating, okay, why are we making such a big deal about where she was staying? And Fani being very defensive, saying, I had to move away from there because it was so bad. And Steven Sadao asking her questions, saying, if it was so bad, you left your dad there, why would you leave him there if it's a dangerous place because it had been doxxed? So it seems as if they're trying to draw an implication that this was her love nest that she formed as a basis of trying to shack up with Nathan Wade. But her dad was living with her at the time and stayed behind in the house. So I guess they're going to likely bring her. I'm assuming that the state wants to bring in the dad here in order to corroborate Fani Willis's claim that the reason she moved out of her regular house into this condo, the Yearty condo, was for her security. That's my best speculation I can give you at this point, but we can only... It's all speculation, and we'll wait and see as to what it is that he testifies about. Perhaps he'll also testify about how he always told his kids that they need to store cash.
Mr. Ward, we're just holding in place for taking witnesses out of order. Do you have any updates on Mr. Bradley?
Yes, so he is still in this appointment. This may last a few more hours. However, he's going to make himself available for Zoom if that's possible. That'll be the quickest and easiest way in order to provide his testimony.
All right. Ms. Merchant.
I was outside looking for them.
Sure. We found them.
I'm sorry.
They're trying to find Bradley also.
He has asked whether the defendants would accept his testimony by Zoom.
As long as I can show him documents, if he needs his memory refreshed, then that's fine.
It is not because.
It is not.
Due respect.
Yeah, the state would have an objection to this witness not appearing in person.
Understood. All right, Mr. Ward, I think we're going to need continual updates from you, and also some kind of expectation of what this afternoon is going to look like. I was never informed of a medical appointment, and I think the notice in this hearing indicated it would last at least 2 days.
At least 2
right
days.
Now,
give me a third day.
He's in violation of subpoena. Subpoena.
Your Honor, I believe that the counsel was given notice of his doctor's appointment. He missed one yesterday. He took the stand yesterday and really was hoping to be able to finish his testimony yesterday as he stayed here all day. This appointment started at 9. It's out of his control with regards to, again, the issues involved with it, as well as, being able to be at 2 places at one time.
I'm just trying to get more. I mean, we initially been told maybe it was going to be 9:30 and 10. Do we have any better idea to get a realistic expectation of when we think we can have him here?
If it's Your Honor's wish, we can just tell him to come on in, and he'd have to go back to us. He'd just have to go back to us with his appointment.
Is he, without getting too much into the particulars, has he already been seen by the doctor and he's waiting for results, or is he still waiting to be seen by a doctor? I'm just,
is he in surgery? Is he not in surgery?
Consulting with his doctor, and they're waiting for results.
And after he gets those results, he was supposed to have another meeting with them today as well. But potentially that meeting could occur later.
After they're able to figure out the purpose of the actual appointment.
Okay, if you can get any kind of an update on how much time they think that those results are going to take. If it's more than an hour or two, I think we would want to start bringing him here, and he can have that follow-up consultation later. All right, thank you, sir.
Did Your Honor want to take up the 1.6 motion?
At this point, I think we've got something else that can occupy our time, and I think we need to move forward with that.
This is a great point that I want to discuss.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm saving this
Absolutely.
for later, Jim,
And I didn't learn about
because this is a really interesting point.
Okay.
That you're raising
Understood.
here.
Ms. Cross.
Mr. Abate will then call Mr. John Floyd.
Mr. Floyd, if you could have a seat, sir.
Oh, I thought he was going to be by Zoom. All right.
May I approach the witness quickly? Just
Thank you. I do.
You may be seated. Would you please state and spell your full name for the court?
My name is John Clifford Floyd III.
Say, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you tell the court, are you currently retired?
Yes, I am.
And prior to being retired, can you tell the court a little bit about, did you work in the legal career? Were you
I was an attorney. I practiced law. I've probably tried 1,000 cases. About 50% of my practice was criminal law. 25% of it was family law. And the rest was whatever walked through the front door and could pay for it.
Okay. And
1 second. I think Governor's come back. He might
I
have.
do. My calendar shows it was October 26, 2021.
All right. And would defense counsel accept it as a stipulation, or is there any follow-up questioning needed on that? Mr. Barnes is still considered under oath on this point. All right. I'm just going to look for a show of hands or for someone to speak now on Zoom, and hearing none. Thank you, sir. You're excused.
And sir, can you tell the court, are you from Atlanta?
No, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I spent most of my legal career, I would say, in Washington, D.C. was kind of the circle, but I've tried cases all over the country, and I tried the longest. I was the first lawyer to try an international criminal court. I was with the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. I was in trial there for 4.5 years in Arusha, Tanzania, and Hague in the Netherlands.
Okay. When you weren't there, it sounds like your kind of center of gravity was Washington, D.C.
Correct, but I've tried cases in West Virginia, Maryland, Florida, California.
All
Yes.
over.
Yes.
And do you, sir, can you tell the court, do you have any children?
I have one daughter, Fani Willis.
Okay. And I want to direct your attention back to 2019, okay?
Yes.
Back in 2019, can you tell the court, did you move here to Atlanta?
I was living in Johannesburg, South Africa. And unfortunately, for some reasons, I could not get an extended visa. When I retired,
Because you're part of Black
from
Panthers?
the practice of law in 2018, I moved to South Africa. And I had to leave South Africa, and I did then come to Atlanta.
Okay. And do you, sir, remember about the time period in 2019 when you moved with your daughter here in Atlanta?
It would have been the spring or summer of 2019.
And after you moved here, did you get a driver's license to kind of confirm your residency in Atlanta?
Well, my driver's license for the District of Columbia was going to expire on my birthday, which is in October. And yes, I did get a license here in the state of Georgia.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Okay.
If you will just take a look at what's been marked as stated.
Okay, Your Honor, would you, if you don't mind, my eyes are very bad, which is one of the reasons I retired.
The state will likely
So
ask
I
this
need,
question.
A magnifying glass, so I'll be
Whatever you
constantly.
need.
Thank you.
Welcome to all you joining from Legal Vices. God bless you, Legal Vice, if you're here. Thank you so much for sending everyone over here. Appreciate that. While you're here, please like and
see it was
subscribe.
Issued on 9.
Check the banner for who's on the
2019.
stands.
Okay. So before we get there, do you recognize State's Exhibit 2?
Yes, just my driver's license.
Okay. And it states Exhibit 2, a fair and accurate copy of your physical driver's license.
Absolutely.
This time around, the state would tender what's been marked as State's Exhibit 2 into evidence.
Seeing no other objections, it's submitted. State's Exhibit 2 is submitted for the record.
Now, and for the record, Your Honor, the state is going to supplement State's Exhibit 2 with a redacted copy of the license. The current copy is not redacted with the address and things of that nature.
All right. And do we need to mark that differently in any way?
I will mark it as State's Exhibit 2A.
Perfect.
Now, you talked about when your driver's license was issued. Can you tell the court, when was that driver's license here, your Georgia driver's license issued?
It was on 9/28/2019.
Okay, so September 28, 2019. Now, when you moved into District Attorney Willis's home, who lived there?
Well, my daughter lived there. I lived there, and from time to time, my grandchildren would come.
Okay, and did your grandchildren, were they at school coming and going?
Exactly. I think they were in school in various jurisdictions.
And during the time, how long did you live at or with Miss Willis and at her home here in Fulton County?
She was forced to move after she was elected. I don't know if you want me to go through the whole thing, but that, Your Honor, if Your Honor will indulge me. After she was sworn in on January 1 of 2021. And on or about the 3rd of February, at probably 5:30 a.m. in the morning, there were people outside her house cursing and yelling and calling her the B word and the N word, and just, it was bizarre. Okay, just
Sorry, pause, sir. Mr. Abani, here's the objection to you.
I would say it's effect on listener. He was present while all of these things were occurring, but I can.
No, that's, and he's saying he was personally present to hear these things?
Yes.
Okay, overruled.
Okay, and fortunately, the neighbors called the police and disbanded, disbanded the group, and it was just, it was just, I hadn't seen anything exactly like it before.
Okay, and after that happened, can you tell the court, did Miss Willis have to move from her home?
Yes, she was forced to leave.
Okay. And can you tell the court, after she was forced to leave, shortly after she was sworn in, did you remain at her home in Fulton County?
Yes, I stayed there really until 2022, I guess.
And from what you described, did you fear for her safety?
Absolutely. Not only did I do that, the South Fulton police, they brought somebody, a man with a dog, because there've been so many death threats. And they said they were going to blow up the house. They were going to kill her. They were going to kill me. They were going to kill my grandchildren. On and on and on. It just, it became, and I was concerned for her safety.
He spent his whole life doing this. Now he likes the police.
Concerns came to your attention, and after what you heard and saw that day, you remained at the house?
Yes.
And can you tell the court, with what you just described, why did you remain living at the district attorney's home here in Fulton County?
I don't see how this is relevant.
Mr. Bowden.
He was asked about
it's relevant based on a lot of the questions that were asked yesterday of Ms. Willis as to
that's what Sadow asked yesterday.
Security threat, and
this
the
is
fact
relevant.
that
Overruled.
implied that those threats were not necessarily
legitimate,
real, in the sense that Mr. Floyd remained in the home. There were many questions about the fact that he remained and her children could still come and go to the house. I think it's relevant based to the testimony that was elicited from defense counsel yesterday.
Overruled.
Well, these South Fulton police, first they put a car in front of the house that was there permanently, a police car. That was thing one. Thing two, they brought a person with a dog, sometimes more than once a day, twice a day, and they would circle the house to look for.
That's not answering why Fani had to leave, but you didn't.
I knew that was a house that my daughter had worked for. It was a brand new house. She's the only one who had ever lived there. It's a 4-bedroom, brand new house. And somebody needed to protect the house. And I stayed there to basically take care of the house, to take care of the yard, to take care of that. Also, somebody sprayed, again, the B word and the N word on the house. And I don't think my daughter even knew that. I cleaned it off and
You have
call the
evidence of that?
police and
I don't think
South,
I don't believe it.
Fulton Police. They have,
It's
I'm
a
sure,
lie.
all the records of all the things that happened.
Well, let's see
And
that.
all of the neighbors, I notified all the neighbors to look out and to watch out. And it was so crazy. I mean, it was just so crazy. We'd have people would show up in parked car. There was a guy parked for probably 8 hours out in front of the house. You know, it was just, and we'd call the police and, you know.
Now, at the time that you lived there with Miss Willis, and
I asked about pictures.
I guess even when you remained, so during the time period of 2019 to the end of 2020, are you aware if Miss Willis was dating someone?
Yeah, she did. She had a boyfriend when I first got there.
And did you meet her boyfriend?
Yeah, I met him often.
Okay, and did you know him by any specific nickname?
Yeah, Deuce.
Okay, and can you tell the court why you were living there? How often would you see him?
Sometimes every day, sometimes, you know, every other day. He was a disc jockey or something, and he had all this paraphernalia that I'd have to move out. It was a thing with the.
I would use the term disc jockey
things
too.
that play music and so forth and so on. So.
Now, when you moved in 2019, and then throughout the years in year 2020, 2021, had you ever met someone named Nathan Wade?
I did not meet Nathan Wade until 2023, about a year ago, when a reporter by the name of Issakoff interviewed me. That was the first time I had met him.
You said that was in 2023?
2023, right.
And I know you said you hadn't met him until 2023, but when you were living at Miss Willis's house in Fulton County, did you ever meet Mr. Wade in the year 2019?
Absolutely not.
How about in the year 2020?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever see Mr. Wade at Miss Willis's Fulton County house in the year 2021?
Never.
And is it your testimony that the only time or the first time that you met Mr. Wade was in 2023?
Let me say something. Mr. Wade said that he remembers seeing me, and I do remember some banter. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and there's kind of this thing that goes on between fraternities. And Mr. Wade is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. And I do remember there was some kind of banter when my daughter was sworn in to be district attorney between me and a couple of guys. And he said he remembers me. I don't remember him.
And prior to that experience that you're talking about, as well as, I guess, your official meeting in 2023, had you ever even heard his name?
No, never.
I don't think I have any further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Merchant.
There's a lot of ground, a lot of fertile ground here.
Fine. How are you, counsel?
Good, thank you. Just got a couple questions. On Monday, we heard you were in California. Do you have a place in California?
People always ask me about where do I live. I guess I live right here, sitting in this seat right now. But yes, the answer is I have a place in Los Angeles.
Okay, you do. All right. So do you share
Lifelong
time-
capitalist,
split time between Los
claims to be a
Angeles and
Marxist.
Georgia.
Actually, I'm working on a
Marxist
documentary
answer.
film, and I'm supposed to
I don't
be
own
being
anything.
filmed not for this trial, but I'm supposed to be being filmed right now. It was planned, and we had to stop it because they asked me to come here. But the answer is I'm working on a documentary, and I'll be in California until I finish the documentary. If we don't have another actor strike and we
Type of
don't have
documentary?
another writer strike.
So do
Black
you
Panthers?
own property in California?
No, I don't.
Type
I
of
live with a friend of mine.
Live with a friend of yours. Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you first move? Well, let me qualify with the dates. Did you spend any time in 2019 in California?
No, and the reason I didn't is that when I first came here, the answer is no, I did not. What happened was COVID. Once COVID hit,
There's no COVID in
I mean, I was
2019.
just
She asked about
paralyzed.
2019.
I couldn't go anyplace. I couldn't go anything. I mean, I'm a theater buff. I used to go to theater at least once a week, but when COVID hit, I just couldn't. I couldn't go to the dentist, which I need to do. Or, you know, it was just a thing. So I was just stuck. I was just stuck there.
I may be wrong, but I believe COVID hit in 2020. So I was asking about 2019. In
Yep.
2019, did you
that.
spend any time in California?
Before COVID was even here in the United States, remember I'd lived in South Africa and I've traveled the world. I knew COVID was coming before. I knew COVID was around before. They may have announced it in 20, but in fact, I knew about it and I knew what was happening in 19.
Okay. So,
Really?
So let's walk through 2019 then. You said you moved here in September. So
No, I didn't say that. I moved here probably prior to September. In September is when I got
There
the
was no
driver's
COVID
license.
at all.
I probably moved in the springtime.
I'm sorry, you did. You said spring, summer.
It wasn't even in Wuhan in September.
So spring, summer 2019 is when you moved here. So up until spring, summer 2019, where did you live?
There was no COVID anywhere on the planet, even in
I lived
Wuhan,
in Johannesburg. Well,
in September 2019.
I lived in Washington, D.C., 2018. I had planned to retire for the rest of my life in South Africa. I had worked for Nelson Mandela and the Free Mandela and get that. And someone I'd gone to law school, he had located there after Mandela was freed from prison and became president. I was going to live there for the rest of my life, but unfortunately, because of political reasons, I could not stay in South Africa, and I was forced, in a sense, to come back to the United States.
So let's just focus in on the period from, let's just start with October 2019. Okay, we'll call that the relevant period. October 2019 until the end of 2019. Were you in Georgia every single day of that year?
Absolutely.
So now let's move to 2020. Okay. And every single day, before I move on, every single day in 2019, you slept at your daughter's house, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's start in 2020. All right. So 2020, the entire year, did you travel anywhere?
No,
You didn't travel at all that year.
no.
So,
And I didn't go to the movies, which upset me also.
so that entire year,
You're so
2020,
persecuted.
you remained here in Georgia.
Right.
In 2021, did you do any traveling?
No.
So when did you move back, or when did you start this documentary film in Los Angeles?
What I had been doing to occupy time as I was writing my own memoir. As I delved into my family background, I discovered something, and that's what got me to working on the documentary. So I want you to understand what was going on in my life. I pitched I have a movie script called Bad Blood. I have a movie script trying to sell. So I tried to sell that. And I just happened to mention something that happened during the civil rights movement. SNCC, it's called the SNCC 5. The legendary Peter Fitzsimmons was interested. And so with Peter Fitzsimmons and Leah Smith, we're now doing the documentary. So
I don't want to interrupt you, but what I was asking was when you moved to Los Angeles, not what you moved there for.
Well, you keep saying moved. I haven't moved to Los Angeles. I spent more time in California, in Oakland, if you really want to just be, because Peter is basically San Francisco based. So we're working on the documentary.
Okay.
I was in Los Angeles because I was going to the Pan-African Film Festival. And that's why we were there. And the way Hollywood works is, you know, when you make connections, and film festivals are a place to try to sell ideas and meet people and organize things.
You still own property in Washington, D.C., correct?
No, I don't.
You don't own property at 1467 Roxana Road Northwest?
That's where I used to live.
That's where you used to live. Did
Right.
you own that property?
Yes.
Okay. And you owned that property when you moved here in 2019?
Yes.
And you owned it in 2020, correct?
Well, now you talk about a very complicated issue. I left the property. There was a dispute between me, and I had gotten a reverse mortgage company. And there was a dispute between me and that. And I just, I walked away from it.
Okay. You walked away from it with almost $300,000.
Yeah, what is the relevance of that?
Where he lived and registered to vote. That's what they brought in. So that's,
Why is the money he got from a sale relevant at all?
it's the only proof I have of that he owned that address. So I can move on though.
He admitted.
Okay.
he owned it.
When did you sell that property?
I didn't. The reverse mortgage company took it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So in 2019, when you got your driver's license here,
Yes.
the next day you registered to vote, correct?
I think it may have been the same day, but maybe it was the next day. I don't remember.
But you didn't own property here in Georgia that day?
No, I was living with my daughter.
Um,
All right, I'm done with this
you
one.
said that you met Mr. Wade, that you remember you met in 2023, right? That was the first time you
Correct.
remember? Okay. And I wasn't really clear. You said something about meeting him. Was it with Mr. Isikoff or did Mr. Isikoff tell you?
No, I was being interviewed by Mr. Isikoff.
Okay.
And he walked in and I met him. That was the first time. He walked into the office and
Where were you being interviewed?
at the district attorney's office.
And Mr. Wade walked into that interview?
Yes.
And so Ms. Willis had not told you about Mr. Wade prior to that.
Absolutely not.
So she didn't tell you anything about their relationship before you met him that day.
No.
Just tell you about that day.
But Mr. Wade remembers meeting you in 2020?
He said that at my daughter's swearing in. I do remember that we having some banner about fraternities, but other than that,
Oh, at your daughter swearing in. Okay.
right.
I think she
That's all I have. Just
sworn in
one more question.
2021.
Nothing else. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we got it much from her cross there. Should change my banner to show that it's a cross.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you, counsel?
I'm fine. I'll try to ask you some specific questions if we could, okay?
And I'll give specific answers if I can.
Perfect.
Okay.
The driver's license address, I'm not going to publish. That is State's Exhibit number 2. But is the address on that driver's license the home that you're referring to as your daughter's in South Fulton?
Absolutely.
And it was unclear to me, maybe no one else, but it's unclear to me, when did you stop living at what I would call your daughter's home in South Fulton?
Things got so bad and threats got so many, even against me, that the house became basically uninhabitable. I got tired of sleeping in one room one day and one that. I would say December of 2022, something like that.
December of 2022.
Right. That's about right. Yeah.
Now, let me change and go back for another date. You had indicated, and I didn't hear it. When was your daughter, Ms. Willis?
That's a
When
good
was
question,
she
Debbie.
sworn in as district
Great
attorney?
question.
On January 1, 2021.
And did you indicate that there was an incident, and I know you've described it, was that incident on February the 3rd, 2021?
That's my best recollection.
Okay. So my question then is, after February 3rd of 2021, how much longer did Miss Willis stay at the house before she moved somewhere else?
Very short period of time, and I cannot be precise, but I would bet all the money I ever made, it wasn't more than a month and a half, if that long.
Okay, so we're talking about, best of your recollection, end of February into the beginning of March, give or take, of 2021, when Miss Willis would have moved to a different location.
Exactly.
Okay. And did Miss Willis return to the house, that is the house that you were in, at any point in time that you can remember?
From time to time, she and her security might show up for her to pick something up or take something or something, but she always would come with her security.
My question was poorly worded, and I apologize.
I would
Did
ask
she
him
come back
where he keeps cash.
permanently to her house?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay, so-
Absolutely not.
So as far as you're aware, that once Miss Willis left the house, her house, South Fulton House, so the record's clear, in either late February or into March of 2021, best of your recollection, she's not returned to that home to live.
No, it became uninhabitable. It just,
That's okay.
I would have to walk around that house looking out of every window. I made a habit of having to walk around the whole house. I got lights so that if somebody would come at night in the back, so that those kinds of, reflecting lights, I had those put up.
I don't mean to, again,
yeah,
cut you off.
okay.
All I was interested in is whether she had ever returned.
No, the answer is no.
Okay. Now, when Miss Willis, when your daughter left the home, time period, end of February, beginning of March, give or take 2021, do you know where she moved to?
No, and I didn't want to know. I intentionally did not want to know because I was not, if somebody stuck a gun to my head,
If
and
I was
could tell 'em,
tortured-
I wasn't going to tell them anyway.
What?
I made up something, but I didn't want to know.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that if you didn't want to know, you never visited her at the place that she moved to?
Oh,
They
I
put
never
a
did.
they put a hood over
Never
my
did.
head and drove me there. What are you talking about?
Do
This
you
is
know
insanity.
how long she stayed?
In case I was
at
tortured in
the
Guantanamo,
first place
I
that
would,
she went
I
to
don't
after
know where
she left
she
her house
lives.
before she moved to a second place.
What I know,
are you out of your-
and this is hearsay, counsel, is that my daughter has had to move something like 4 times.
But do you know any potential?
No, I don't know any place.
That's not
I was taken one
That's not
time
hearsay.
for Christmas Day. I've only seen my daughter, and this is very hard for me to say, but during the period my daughter left, I've only seen my daughter 13 times because I can't, and we've never seen each other more than maybe 3 hours because of, the nightmare threats against her and me.
And I understand that, and from the perspective of being a father myself, I understand what that means. So I'm going to move away from that. I was just trying to get an idea of date-wise, okay? So let me try to get one more date. In 2023, when you were being interviewed by one of the gentlemen that wrote the book at the DA's office, and Mr. Wade came in, can you
That
give
was
us, other
September,
than
though,
2023?
not
what
September
the date was?
2019.
I'm sorry, I can't, counsel.
How about spring, summer? Any idea?
I would guess spring or summer, but I can't. I don't. I'm sorry.
And you've already indicated, at least to your recollection, that was the first time that you'd met Mr. Wade.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you about that. I want to go to Miss Willis's boyfriend that you referenced. Okay, you met Miss Willis's boyfriend, as you've characterized it, when you came here in 2019,
Correct.
and you met him on one occasion, several occasions.
Oh, no, I saw him often.
Oh, so you mean
Took me
there
a
was no
second.
secret that she was dating this man,
Not from me.
not from you?
And not.
What if he was
a-
tortured and someone
again, he
asked
was
you
a
about it?
disc jockey of some kind. I think he had a government job during the day. I don't know what it was, but apparently he would do weddings and so forth and so on. He was a disc jockey, play music. So he had all his stuff was always in the way, and I was always having to try to push it aside. And anyway.
But Miss Willis,
They're
your
very, very
daughter didn't
important
keep
people.
him from you, correct?
No,
No, I mean, there was no doubt he.
I mean, we lived in, my daughter and I lived in the same house. I mean, he came and went,
Right. Now, when did you learn that your daughter had a romantic, personal relationship with Mr. Wade?
Well, about 7 weeks ago when as a matter of fact,
Oh, so he didn't know.
I just found out when other folks found out. Okay.
That is, your daughter, as I understand it, never told you one time in the year of 2022 that she was dating Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
And until recently, you didn't know from anyone, including your daughter, that she dated Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
That is, whatever the relationship is between father and daughter, she kept that a secret from you, correct?
Correct.
That's all I need to know.
Mr. Stockton.
No.
I think it'd be an interesting question.
Good morning.
As to how much money he
Good
could
morning.
hand in the
Correct.
house.
Good morning,
Let me ask
Counsel.
about what you told
When
your
your daughter moved or left the house that she owned, did she say anything to you about having a large savings of cash?
Oh,
Oh, no, no. See, maybe, excuse me, and Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist, okay? But it's a black thing, okay? You know, I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash or they keep cash. And I trained, you always keep some cash because I've been places, and just because of the color of my skin, for example, I took a fellowship at Harvard when my daughter was just, if I might, Your Honor, if I might, when I was just, she was just, maybe 3 years old. And I remember going to a restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I had a American Express credit card and maybe a Visa or whatever. And I had a lot of what they call traveler's checks. I don't even know if they still have traveler's checks, but traveler's checks. And there was a sign said, with the credit card. For whatever reasons, the man would not take my American Express credit card. So I pulled out my Visa card, and he wouldn't take my Visa card. So then I pulled out my traveler's checks. He said, we don't take checks. Now these were traveler's checks. This was money. I had a $10 bill. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And he said, the bill for my wife at the time, Fani's mother, Fani, and myself was like $9.95. And I had a $10
like in
bill.
1962.
That. I always remember that.
Just stop it. Just stop it.
But even before that, I've always kept cash, and I've told my daughter, you keep 6 months worth of cash always. For example, I had 3 safes in my house. I put some of my clients' stuff there too.
You have to have 6 months worth of cash.
Other lawyers to be, because you're always in a firm, and I knew that there were special conditions. So some of my clients' things I would bring home, put them in the safe. But I've always kept safes. And as a matter of fact, I gave my daughter her first cash box and told her always keep some cash.
So is that a yes?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
See, that's how you know it's crap. Because he's asked the yes or no question. He goes on a 6-month launching thing. He's like, "Oh, this is the part where I'm supposed to explain how I always told her this." That was so. That was such lacking any credibility. That was such obvious BS. As soon as they ask me about keeping cash, you tell them how you always said keep 6 months worth of cash.
It's still morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Counsel.
Yeah.
How are you?
Just fine. Just a few questions following up. When you were talking about when you learned about Mr. Wade and your daughter, correct?
Correct.
Now, did your daughter tell you in around October of 2022 that she had gone on a Caribbean cruise with Mr. Wade to the Bahamas?
The answer is I knew that my daughter had gone, but I did not know who she went with or what the circumstances were. So I knew that she had gone out of town, but I didn't know with whom.
I see. And did she tell you in November of 2022 that she had gone to Aruba and stayed at a Hyatt Regency resort there in Aruba for 3 days with Mr. Wade? Did she tell you that?
The answer was, again, I knew she went out of town. I didn't even know where she went. I knew she was going out of town. She told me she was going out of town. I think she might have said she was going out of the country or something. She'd be going. But other than that, that was all.
Okay. And did she tell you in March of 2023 that she was going to Belize for several days with Mr. Wade?
It's the same answer, that I knew she would tell me she was going out of town, and she may or may not have told me where she was going, but she'd be gone for a couple of days.
Okay. Now in 2023, you were in many days you would be out in California, correct?
Some days I'd be in California, correct.
Okay. Well, did she tell you in May of 2023 that she was traveling to Napa Valley with Mr. Wade, so maybe y'all could see each other when she visited California with Mr. Wade?
The answer is no.
And so the first time that you ever met Mr. Wade or learned about Mr. Wade,
I missed that.
to your recollection, was in 2023?
That's correct.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Kucherov on Zoom.
Yes, Ron, just a couple quick questions. Good morning, sir. I know I can't see you.
I can't see you either, but
We can take a moment.
good morning, Counsel.
We take a moment. Let's just pause, see if we can change the screens to show Mr. Kucherov. Sorry.
Your Honor, I'm on a phone, so it's kind of difficult.
Can you turn your screen
It
on
is the
though?
client money, to be fair.
I'm trying to.
So yeah, it definitely seemed very rehearsed that she says, my daddy always told me 6 months. And as soon as he asked about holding money, he's like, I always told my daughter that you keep 6 months. Who the heck would just volunteer that without even being asked anything about it? He was just asked, you keep money. And all of a sudden he's like, I always told my daughter.
Just to hold one more moment.
Rehearsed,
All right, there we go.
and
You
not
proceed,
at all
Mr. Kucherov.
credible.
Sir, you seem to know about the issue of cash in this transaction. You said it was a
He's
black
not supposed
thing.
to be watching.
How did you know that the cash was going to be an issue in this testimony?
Because I was asked for it and I was prepped by the lawyers and they asked me about it. What else?
And did you speak with Mr. Wade about your testimony?
No.
Did you speak with your daughter about your testimony?
She may have been present when the lawyers were. I really don't.
If Mr. Wade and your daughter were dating, you wouldn't have known that unless your daughter told you.
What do you? Maybe I'm not
Yes
understanding
or no
your question,
question.
counsel.
It's a
So
yes or
maybe
no
you want to
question.
restate. What is it that you're asking me?
Yeah, if it wasn't clear, I can re-ask the question. I'll rephrase it.
Yeah,
If
right.
Mr.
Yeah,
Wade,
please do.
if Mr. Wade and your daughter were dating, you wouldn't have known that unless your daughter told you.
I did not know that they were dating.
Judge,
And
I
when
have
were you
nothing
talking
further.
about the cash? I didn't know that. I don't know what you're asking me. What I told my child from the time she was a child is always have some money. Always have some money.
Katsarov caught
You
him.
go on a date so that people don't
Katsarov
try to
caught him.
stick you and you want to leave whoever. Always keep some cash, okay?
Mr. Floyd, you answered the question that the attorneys prepped you for that. So that's all I wanted to know.
Anything else, Mr. Kucherov?
That's it, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Cromwell.
No questions, Your Honor.
He was
Mr. Abadi?
busted. Totally busted. This was
Mr.
all
Floyd, now,
staged
it
and
wasn't
prepped.
common for your daughter to confide in you about her romantic life at all.
No, and I haven't confided in her about mine before when I had one, okay?
Hate him.
And you wouldn't have known about her boyfriend. The
Hey,
disc jockey.
Debs.
Is that an objection?
I think that might have just been still off mute.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Now, you wouldn't have known about her boyfriend, the disc jockey, had you not been living with her, correct?
That's correct.
I'll allow overrule.
I love
I have
this
nothing
line.
further.
Did he answer the question?
Okay. He said that.
All right, by show of hands, any redirect on those points only? Ms. Merchant.
I just want to know when you were prepped by the lawyers, when this prep session was.
I just got off the plane on, what was it, Tuesday night? I think I was probably drooling at the mouth. I was so tired. So it must have been, I got in Wednesday. It must have been Wednesday.
Okay. And did you talk about any of the testimony from yesterday or watch any news reports or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Luca, you can't cut the TV on without seeing this. The first thing, and I listen to conservative radio a lot, and, last night for 5 hours, all they talked about was this case.
To strike his entire
So you were
testimony.
aware of what the testimony your daughter gave yesterday was?
Yeah, how could,
Move to
unless
strike
you
his entire
don't
testimony.
cut the
Strike it
radio
all.
on,
Strike it
unless
all.
you don't read the AJC
Strike it
or
all.
any other, the New York
Strike it
Times
all.
or whatever, which I do every day, yeah, of course.
So is it fair to say nobody instructed you that you were under the rule of sequestration?
Right, and I'm not under subpoena either.
Thank you.
Move to strike.
All right, anything else?
Move to strike his entire
Seeing and
testimony.
hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Floyd.
Move
Thank
to
you very much,
strike.
John. It's a pleasure to appear in front of you.
Move to
Thank you.
strike his entire testimony.
All right,
The
Ms.
state knew they were going to call him.
Ross,
They
let me
prepped
check
him on
in. Was the
Tuesday.
state planning to call additional witnesses?
Oh my God! How do you not
This
move to
time, Your Honor,
strike?
We're trying to accommodate if there's a
Sure.
lapse in schedule to be able to this afternoon, but right now that was our last witness.
Okay, so even if Mr. Bradley testifies to some extent, there's still the potential that the state has no further witnesses?
I anticipate at least one more will be available this afternoon, but that would be it.
Okay, so there are potentially more state's witnesses. All right.
Judge, before we move on, I'd move to strike the last witness's
Thank
testimony.
you.
Violation of the rule of sequestration.
All right, so I think the rule is invoked and the instruction was for the parties to tell all witnesses subpoenaed or expected to appear about the rule. I don't think the remedy is necessarily striking. I think it can go also to this credibility as well. So to that extent, I'll, unless Ms. Cross, you want something else to be heard on that, point is made. All right. Do we have an update from Mr. Brown?
At least she moved to strike. Someone moved to strike. Got 20 lawyers in the room there.
12:25.
Okay, then what I think we should do is have these preliminary conversations about privilege, see if we can make any headway, and then take our afternoon break. So to that end, counselors, I don't know if you just want to argue in place there or go to the table, whatever makes you comfortable. But Mr. Chopra, I think maybe it was relayed to you since you weren't in the court earlier this morning. We'd had some initial conversations about the distinction between the privilege and Rule 1.6, and it sounded like you wanted to be heard on that.
Your Honor, it was brought to my attention. And I apologize because I don't have. Thanks.
What do you need?
Well, a copy of the case in front of me would be helpful, but it's not necessary. It would just take me a second to keep looking at my phone to respond to the court.
Whatever you need to do.
Your Honor, I believe case report in anticipation of piercing the rule 1.6 is owns Corning fiberglass versus American Centennial. Is that correct? Pardon me, Your Honor. It's difficult. You're in counsel. Could you?
Yeah. And there's a microphone there at the jury box. You can try to
Hear what he's saying. Thank you, Your Honor.
either try to lift that microphone up and speak in the jury box or make your way over to the podium or table. Sorry.
Is that any better?
All right. And no, that was authority provided by Mr. Sadow over our morning recess. And I think that was indicated to go more towards a potential crime fraud argument. I don't think we've really gotten there yet.
It's not crime fraud per se. It's the same notion. It's fraud on the court, different proposition.
Okay.
But yes, and to attorney-client privilege waiver.
Right.
1.6 confidential and secrets waiver.
The case that I had cited to this morning showing the distinction between the two was tenant healthcare. So that's where we were on the threshold issue. Did you have something that you wanted to address on that?
I've not been able to review that, Your Honor. I was unfortunately unaware.
All right, Mr. Ward, your co-counsel with Mr. Bradley?
I'll come back to this.
I'm here in that capacity.
Remind me why you are here.
I'm here just assisting. You're just assisting with Mr. Bradley and assisting with the counsel, his counsel.
Okay, so you are co-counsel on this.
Well, this morning when you were asking where he was, I had to make sure everybody knew here. That's what I was doing, just informing you.
Thank you. Oh, this is what the judge is saying is tenant.
Right, and the citation for that's 273 Georgia 206.
Judge,
And I'll give you time to review that. In the meantime, what other things that you want me to know? And perhaps at this point, we just take our break now, unless you also want to talk about the questionings that are provided by Ms. Merchant, seeing if there's anything we can achieve.
So that I can be clear, it is apparent that at this point, we're going to go into whether or not 1.6 provides privilege for Mr. Wade, even though he has specifically stated that he does not waive that privilege. Therefore, it would be incumbent upon the court to issue an order to demand that Mr. Bradley, over and above the privilege afforded in 1.6, is required to testify. Is that correct?
That's right. That's what we covered this morning.
And so I would ask the court, is the court then going to travel under the fraud exception?
We haven't quite gotten there. We haven't decided whether attorney-client privilege applies. I think there are some other things that we would have to do to, I think we got held up yesterday on 1.6. As I understood it, I was waiting to hear from you whether we are now beyond that. And then if we're in the land of attorney-client privilege and only attorney-client privilege, so Rule 505, then I think Mr. Sadow has some arguments on crime fraud. And I think there's also just the general arguments of, does it exist? Were certain statements in furtherance? Does Mr. Bradley have any knowledge independent of those?
Certainly.
Right?
And in order to keep the court abreast, yes, we are still traveling under, there should be a privilege afforded to Mr. Wade under 1.6. And we are aware of how they will try to convince the court that that should be overcome. So hopefully I can read this case in less than 5 minutes.
All right, that's fine. Anything I guess as he reads that, let's do this. Assuming we do get beyond 1.6, if you can work with me here, anything we want to add to that?
I'm afraid I would have to hear what the arguments were that got us past 1.6,
Okay.
Judge. I'm not here to insinuate to the court that we would do something else. I don't
Okay.
know.
But there was a line of questioning that Ms. Merchant decided to write out and share with the parties. Were there any initial thoughts, comments, reactions to that? Again, just trying to make sure we make the best use of Mr. Bradley's time once he arrives.
Your Honor, I just want to say that that might just reiterate that my client has not waived the attorney-client privilege. The questions that we reviewed this
A
morning.
lot of people ask this question.
Mr. Bradley is not able to testify about anything relating to Wade's marriage or dating history after December 2018. That's going to be the operative days.
No.
Nor does
No.
any of the questions
That's not true.
Mr. Bradley cite to any external knowledge or sources. Anything he will say would be derived entirely from privileged communication with our clients.
That's
So we
not
just
true.
Want to renew our approach.
Okay. So certainly the assertion of the privilege is confirmed and for the record. And I think, again, this is where we got held up yesterday is that I know you're asserting that certain answers to these questions would be covered by privilege. I think there's still some boxes we would need to check before we can confirm that. And we'd have to check those boxes with Mr. Bradley before we can get there.
Further, Judge.
Okay. If there's nothing else, then let's break until 1 o'clock. All right. Thank you all.
All right. Fine. So there's a bunch of you were making this point here. And and I want to talk about this because someone asked this question. We should talk a little bit here about the testimony from John Floyd, Fani Willis's father. So, he admitted at the end that he was coached by and prepped. I shouldn't say coached. The proper term is prepped, which there's nothing wrong with prepping a witness. That's totally fine. The difference between prepping and coaching is in coaching, you're telling the guy what the answer is, as opposed to prepping, where you actually ask them questions and get information from them. And then say, once you get the information, then you're like, okay, so I'm going to ask you these questions and then you're going to say these answers and whatever. And it's based on information that's totally normal and healthy. And every trial attorney does this with every witness that is under their control, that they're going to prep them. And you also prep them for what questions they should anticipate on cross and how they're going to handle those questions. Those are all natural and normal litigation practices that every litigation attorney employs. That's different from coaching, which is where you're basically saying, okay, so this is how you're going to, this is what I want you to say. And you're sort of feeding them the information that they're going to be providing, that irrespective of what the truth is. That's coaching. That's the difference between prepping and coaching. Coaching, not okay. Prepping is not simply okay, but it's expected. That should be done. That's appropriate. That line can often be blurred. And it's completely inappropriate to have two potential witnesses being prepped together, because then they sort of it becomes a coaching of like, okay, what's our strategy going to be for what we're going to say with respect to these particular issues? That was not just damaging to the father. This was a terrible, terrible litigation mistake by the state, because that was not simply damaging to the father. That was damaging to the credibility of Fani, to the extent that the court believed her when she said, my daddy always told me to keep 6 months cash on hand, and that's why I have all this cash on hand, and I really did pay that cash. Now, it seems as if the entire testimony of both of them is not prepped, but coached. It's basically a plan of what's our story going to be. Well, what story would work best? This is the best story for us. Because let's face it, this is the best story that is salvageable for her whole issue here. Understand the two primary issues here are, when did the relationship start? And was this designed in order to benefit Fani financially, right? Was this entire prosecution designed to benefit Fani financially? And that's why she hires her boyfriend, so that she can basically have the financial benefits. And we see all these different records showing that he's paying for trips. And she's like, no, I didn't financially benefit because I paid back cash. And my relationship started afterwards. Well, she seems like a freaking liar on that when she's contradicted by Robin Yearty. So that's a little problem that they have there. And the second, with respect to the timing of all this, they're bringing up the love shack that they had to show that the love shack that they had was designed so she can basically be away from her dad and have a place to basically hang out with Nathan Wade. And that's why I have all the issues about that. They brought in Roy Barnes, the governor, to show, hey, we tried hiring other people. She wasn't just looking to give a job to her boyfriend. But this is an interesting question that came up with respect to that, which is why is he in the room there? Why is if Wade is an option, why is he in the room when they're consulting with Roy Barnes? He's not even employed by the state. He doesn't get the meeting happens on October 26th. He doesn't get employed by the state. He's not even a state employee. What the hell is he doing there at a meeting with Roy Barnes about who's going to be the special prosecutor, where they're trying to get him to be the special prosecutor? What the hell is happening there? That Wade is there. That's a very, very strange thing. Someone brought that point up. It was Jim Satala brought that up, and I want to drop a horn on you here. I don't drop horns in the middle of trial. But you're correct. That's a very, very bizarre thing for him to be there. And then all of a sudden he becomes special prosecutor. This entire thing is being run like it's like we're in a flea market. I don't know what the hell's happening here. Why is Wade sitting in this meeting? He's not a member of the DA's office. He has no role, no capacity that he's been employed. And to the extent that there's sort of, you would expect privilege to attach to it, because this is, what the state is going on there. They shouldn't necessarily be forced to, or you can expect some type of privilege to attach to it when they're trying to employ someone to serve in this capacity. This is what our investigation's been showing. This is why we want to go after this person. We want to look into this, whatever. You would expect there would be you would think there would be some expectation of privacy and privilege, that there's not something they want to share with the public. And yet they bring in someone here who's not employed by the state, and his presence there theoretically could puncture whatever privilege to that and confidentiality to those communications would be there. If you sort of look at it as the same way when we look at Nathan Wade talking to a lawyer about his marriage issues, that you're saying that's seeking out a potential attorney. In this context with the special prosecutor, you have the state seeking out an attorney to serve in this capacity as their attorney to go after these defendants in this case. So in that case, you would expect that they would think that there'd be potentially some sort of privilege which would attach. Why would you bring in a third party who's not part of the state, not part of the person who you're trying to woo to come in there, and you're trying to basically say that privilege, and you're not afraid that privilege is going to be punctured by having this third party there? It's a very bizarre thing. Even if they are, and does it prove that they're dating? I don't know. It's a very weird thing. It's a very weird thing. It doesn't, there's no logic to having Wade at that meeting. And I think it does give some indicia that maybe she's so clouded by her personal relationship with him that she doesn't even realize how incompetent it is to bring him to that meeting, because it seems utterly, 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 utterly stupid and incompetent. Like, wow, are you really a lawyer? Are you really a lawyer? This is the district attorney. This is the district attorney of Fulton County. Oh, I think she's a boob. She's a boob. There's something wrong with her. There's something wrong with her. I thought it was hilarious when the dad said that in September of 2019, he moved to Georgia because he was afraid of COVID. There is nobody in Wuhan who had COVID in September of 2019. It didn't hit there till at least October. At least October. So no, he didn't know anything about it. But he claims that all of a sudden, I don't know. I guess he's Floyd Stradamus, that he knew that COVID's coming to California. I gotta move to Georgia. It's the only safe place there is. What the hell? I mean, that was just crap. That was just crap. And all the questions about the cash, and people were pointing out here that, and Tancred actually pointed out over here, saying that November, December 2019, from China, mysterious illness striking people. What we know of was coup, families being locked. Yeah, okay, that's November, December, not September. It's 2 months earlier. I'm telling you right now, I'll do a Google search. You'll see. The first reported cases were not till October. And he moved to Georgia in September. It was not because of COVID. But, yeah, there was a lot of narcissism and perceived self-importance. And he basically, he did so much damage to their case It was such a terrible move for them to bring him up here. And Pam, you're correct. 6 months worth of cash and you have a reverse mortgage. Reverse mortgage is what you're borrowing against your own equity here. That doesn't seem to make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. When you're borrowing against the reverse mortgage is when you have equity in a house and then you borrow against it. You're paying interest on it. So you're keeping cash on hand so that way you're losing money. That makes no sense at all. It doesn't make any sense at all. It also doesn't seem to make any sense that you expose your house to having liens on it because you're not able to pay your taxes and you're keeping 6 months worth of cash on the house. The whole thing makes no sense at all. So that's why I was screaming that once he admits, because they're supposed to sequester anyone who's under subpoena or expected to be called as a witness, and they didn't sequester, they quite the opposite sequestration. They actually seem to prep them, if not coach them, together. And then he admits that he watched the trial when he's supposed to be told you're not supposed to know what the testimony is. So that's why I think they should have moved to strike. You move to strike and say all of his testimony should be out. The judge said that instead of striking his testimony, it goes to credibility. I guess in the end of the day, you can say that it's beneficial and that it knocks out some of Fani's testimony, where she says, my daddy always told me, because it's like, no, your daddy didn't tell you that. That's what you guys all came up with together. It shows how little credibility you have. It shows that you're a freaking liar, that you're so full of crap, and you got up there on the stand and just made up all that stuff about like, oh yeah, I got to keep 6 months. I don't have any money to pay my bills, and I'm keeping 6 months worth of cash on hand. Complete and total lie. Complete and total lie. This one made me laugh. That's one of the greatest lines in a sitcom ever. There's always money in the banana stand. There's always money in the banana stand. So yeah. So you're saying probably wait to strike until they got out of the room, and I'm telling you right now, Justin, he said he's not striking it. He said I'm gonna leave it in there, and it goes to credibility. That's leaving himself a lot of options. See, here's the thing. Let me just point this out, okay? The record is important primarily for the appellate courts. Appellate court's not going to go sit through hours and hours and hours and hours of testimony. You strike it from the record, and if it's stricken from the record and it's not there in the record, in that case, it never happened. It's like basically a mulligan. It's as if that piece of history in the court is utterly erased. It's gone. Now, so which means that you can't rely on this and say that this, is an arguably logical explanation and that's supported by the testimony of Fani's testimony is supported by the testimony of her dad. So if you strike it, it's not there. It's definitely not being stricken. The judge ruled that he's not striking it. He said that he's going to leave it in there and it'll go to credibility. It gives him a more latitude because now he can decide to basically say, I'm using it to help Fani overcome this motion. And even though, the question, the credibility is a little shaky, but I don't have anything to refute it. He could do that. And when it comes to making determinations as far as assessing the credibility of the witnesses, no appellate court is going to overturn the judge on that. Never. That never happens. That is exactly the sort of area where the appellate court says we give the trial court broad discretion in assessing credibility. And it's because they recognize that when you see something on a transcript, you cannot get a proper vibe for what it is. If we were to pull and we were to read through the transcript of Fani Willis's testimony yesterday, just to pound this point home, it just looks like words on a page, and you cannot tell when she's being soft-spoken or when she's shouting. There's no way to tell. It's just words on a page. It's like when you read a text message and you're looking through it and you're sort of like, wait, are you being serious? Are you being sarcastic? Are you being a jackass? There's a famous clip. There's a famous sketch of Key and Peele where one guy's like, where one of them is like, thinks they're in a massive argument, and the other one's like, oh, okay. Like he's like, so I thought you said we were going to go. So he's like, whatever. He's like, whatever? You're saying whatever? I can't believe that. brother, you want to go? And he's like typing, you want to go? And he's like, huh, do I want to go? Yeah, let's go. And he's like, let's go. Fine, let's go. Like two different people reading the same thing have different connotations. It's the same thing with a transcript. And that's why, because when you're looking at a flat transcript, you cannot really assess credibility or really get the same type of flavor as to what the testimony is. The trial court is always going to be granted broad discretion in their take on credibility because they watched it live. So they're going to be granted that level of so the appellate court will never say your assessment on their credibility was wrong, because they recognize there's no way we can know better. We're only reading the transcript when he saw it in person. Now, that being the case, when he's saying, I'm going to leave John Floyd's testimony in the record and it'll go to credibility, what he's doing is he's giving himself all the power as to, like, I can either say it's got zero credibility, or I can say, no, even though it sounds a little strange, I found it to be completely credible. And that will never be appealable because his assessment of credibility is going to be the final word here forever. That will never be changed. Whatever McAfee's determination on credibility is the final word. Now, if it's stricken from the record altogether, in that case, he can't weigh in on its credibility or lack of credibility, which means that it's one less thing that he can sort of have latitude of and in his personal assessment in the eyes of the appellate court. So that's what I'm saying is it gives him more power if he leaves it in. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Well, it probably depends on which way he ends up finding in this entire thing, right? Right? I mean, that's depends on what his final decision is. But that's the impact of him failing to strike it rather than leaving it on the record and saying it goes to credibility. Wade called J.G. Wentworth and got his cash. Now, Mr. Bradley is Mr. Wade's ex-business partner, correct? Yes. Ex-business partner, former divorce attorney, friend going back to the 90s. They are now currently in a fight with each other, and the partnership has dissolved. But it seems like Bradley is protective either because of attorney-client privilege or for himself or for some other reasons, but he seems to be very reluctant to bury Wade. Very reluctant. And whenever someone's very reluctant, they're going to claim the noble reason of, like, oh, I'm just following my duties as an attorney to my client. And that could be true, but it frequently is not true. It frequently is you're just looking out for yourself, either because you're afraid of being sanctioned, or because you're afraid politically of the ramifications of burying Wade, or because you happen to like him, even though you're in a fight with him on a business level. There's 1,000 different reasons that he could have motivations. So we never really know what the answer is, but the answer he's going to tell us is always going to be the most noble one, invariably. Yeah, it is. Well, like I said, I think I just answered your question there on that. Establishment, did Koof take out Trump? They knew. Yeah. Dave Ramsey recommends saving 6 months of income in savings account for emergencies, not in cash at home. You know, they would say that he tried saying that's a black thing. That's a black thing because I had my whole travelers checks were denied. I had my bank account back in 1972. This guy wouldn't accept my check. Yeah, as if PayPal isn't going to accept it because they're not going to transfer money for you because you're black, right? Cash App's not going to work for you. She seemed to trust Cash App. She trusted Cash App all the time. She trusted it. Fani was watching the trial before she testified yesterday. That's why she knew when to come in. So I'm sure she watched today. Yep. I'm sure right now, over lunch, there are freakouts happening in Fani Willis. Fani Willis is freaking out about how badly that went. That went disastrously. This was a disastrous testimony. Her father's was named in 20 and COVID 2019 because first seen in 20. Yes, I'm not disputing that it was seen in 2019 in Wuhan. That's correct. It was seen in October. Like, you know what? Let's get first reported case. I'm going to look it up. First reported case COVID. Maybe there was one case in 2019 in Wuhan. don't want to misinform anybody. There we go. See, thank you very much. The novel coronavirus, as later named SARS-CoV-2, infects a human for the first time, November 18, 2019. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, whoops, didn't mean to do that. He did not know in September 2019 that COVID was coming. Nobody knew even in October. Nobody. Yeah? Nobody. So he was lying. It was called COVID-19 because it was discovered November 18th, 2019, not September, which is when he moved to Fulton. I thought that was true, but I wanted to make sure about my timeline there and everything. All right. Nancy Jennings says, do you think we'll have a Fani sighting today? They might try and repair her. And now I think they probably will bring her in. Probably will. But I don't know. I think that Fani's freaking out now. I think she's freaking. Regarding Bradley's possible testimony, how can they prove whether or not he's telling the truth? And would Willis and Wade face consequences with the bar if he says they began dating in 2019? In order for them, look, someone's got to have an interest in going after them. She's politically powerful, so someone would have to have an interest. I can't tell you the future. I'm not John Floyd. I can't tell you the future. I don't know. Could there be issues? Yeah, I mean, I guess there could be issues for, misleading or misstatements, or she left out all these different gifts that she got. I mean, there's 1,000 different reasons that different people. TextVet brought this up long ago. He was talking about no criminal charge with money laundering, tax dodging, by misrepping. Could there be anything? Yes. Was it financial stuff, money laundering? Could there be stuff? 100%. Yes. You need to have someone interested in going after her and or him. I can't tell you what's going to happen. I'm simply telling you, could it happen? Yeah, these points you guys are making are perfect points. Perfect points. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm simply saying in order for it to happen, you have to have someone who's interested in making it happen. And we've seen that when it comes to the politically elite, it's unlikely for that to find such people, but it could happen. It does happen occasionally. So who knows? I would never want to bet on it happening because it seems to happen so rarely. I think there's tons and tons and tons of corruption amongst the elite, and I think it's very rare that they get their asses handed to them. That's really what it boils down to. It's very, very rare for them to get their asses handed to them. So when it's so rare, to bet on it happening in this particular case seems like a real long shot, right? Like 60-1 kind of odds, because I think there's at least 60 times as much corruption as what gets exposed. So I just threw out the number 60 at random. But could it happen? Yeah, definitely. Should it happen? Yeah. Will it happen? I think almost definitely not. Just based on history. Who knows? No way to know. Based on the amount of circumstances we've seen, it really looks like all of them have been watching the trial. Considering the integrity is on trial, I don't know. Ethics seem not to matter, and they exploit it. Yeah, I think they also feel as if no one's going to question them. And maybe they're getting their comeuppance. Hopefully, that's what we all want to see, right? It's even reasonable after all this not to remove Fani. Could a decent, fair-minded person still rule in her favor? I think the evidence has been building and building and building, and this was disastrous testimony for it. Disastrous. Really, really disastrous. At this point, like that's why, someone commented about how he facepalmed. I want to go back. Let me see if I can find it. Someone said I should find it. Where
it must have been Wednesday.
Okay. And
there we go. Someone actually asked me to pull this up. Who was it that asked me? Who asked me to pull this up? Said they facepalmed. Tina Lewis said. He said Fani was present. Let's see if he face palms when he says Fani was present.
Did you talk about any of the testimony from yesterday or watch any news reports or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. You can't cut the TV on without seeing this. The first thing, and I listen to conservative radio a lot.
Let's go back a little bit.
It must have, what was it, Tuesday night? I just got off the plane on, Tuesday night? I think I was probably drooling at the mouth. I was so tired. So it must have been, I got in Wednesday. It must have been Wednesday.
Okay. And did you talk about any of the testimony from yesterday or watch any news reports or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Luca, you can't cut the TV on without seeing this. The first thing, and
Defense.
I listen to conservative radio a lot, and last night for 5 hours, all they talked about was this case.
So you were aware of what the testimony your daughter gave yesterday was?
Yeah, unless you don't cut the radio on, unless you don't cut the television on, unless you don't read the AJC or any other, the New York Times or whatever, which I do every day, yeah, of course.
So is it fair to say nobody instructed you that you were under the rule of sequestration?
Right, and I'm not under subpoena either.
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
I don't see the face palm there. Maybe I missed it, but yeah. Anyhow, all right. I need to take a break and restart this. This is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna make us an afternoon session. Okay, I'll be back here at 1 o'clock. I'm making a new link. So I'm gonna be shutting this down over here. We're gonna come back here at 1 o'clock when the court resumes. So we're gonna use this. I like this feed better. This feed's much better. So we're gonna be using that. Yeah, I think that his credibility has been so destroyed. I don't think they need to worry about this anymore. Anyhow, but I agree with you, Ryan. That's what I want to sort of close out this morning session with. I agree with you. There's no credibility here, and I think that he really hurt their case. I think he hurt their case. All lawyers say not trying to testify rattled. If she's removed, yes, it'll be the reason because she has smoke coming out of her ears while testifying. I think today is much worse. I think she did okay on the stand. I think that her father destroyed her today. Destroyed her credibility. He didn't just destroy his own credibility. He destroyed her credibility. That they're planning things in cahoots with each other. And they're sitting there prepping them together. That there's just like no ethics here. There's like literally no ethics. So yeah, I think they really, really damaged themselves. Anyhow, I'm gonna wrap this up over here. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, I did miss one. Scott Bain says Fani was a terrible witness. She practically radiates fear and guilt. Thanks to the coverage. Hope you are well. You're awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I thought that she was very hostile and very bad as far as being a witness, but at the same time, she wasn't. She got out testimony that was beneficial to her. I just feel as if her father really buried that today. Taiwan blew the whistle on the World Health Organization on COVID, Wuhan, December 2019. Yeah, there we go. That's from Examoon TV, saying that the WHO expelled Taiwan to cover up for the CCP. Katie, new monthly supporter over on Rumble. And I also had Jessica saying Wade was at her swearing in as well. Does that fit the timeline? Her swearing in, I believe, was in the beginning of 2021, but it's also, he says, like, he don't remember really meeting him. And I also had earlier, most band queens say, not to fan the guy, but isn't 6 months cash on hand considered good financial advice? I've always heard that my entire life. Is the issue that she didn't keep it in the bank? What am I missing? It's weird to keep hundreds in your especially when you're borrowing money and can't pay. If you can afford to do it, yeah, but she doesn't seem like she was financially capable of putting aside hundreds of money. Like I was joking earlier, it's like she's living in a cardboard box, but she has hundreds of dollars stored in the corner of the box. It seems crazy. It seems crazy that she's so financially strapped and yet has thousands of dollars sitting around in cash in her house. She's borrowing money left and right, but she's got, but she's homeless and living with hundreds and thousands of dollars and stacked in hundreds. That doesn't add up. Doesn't make any sense. All right, I'm wrapping up here. I'll be back here in 25 minutes. Look for the links. You'll find it goodlogic.locals.com. Goodlogic.locals.com. You will find the links. I will be back here at 1 o'clock. Don't be late. Don't be late. I won't be late either. All of us will be very busy being not late. 1 o'clock. I will see you all then. Till then, take care of yourselves. Let's catch the afternoon. Fanny's probably going to take the stand. I don't know. I can't tell you, but I don't know. If I was the state, I'd put her on the stand. Are they going to do it? I don't know, but I'd put her on the stand this afternoon. Make sure you don't miss it. We'll be back here at 1 o'clock. Till then, take care of yourselves. Stay happy. Eat the bugs. And as always, Godspeed.